What's up, everybody? We're going to be talking about the astrology of the week ahead. Good morning. What's up, everybody? Waiting for people to come on the live on Instagram. This is being recorded for YouTube. We're going to be pulling some cards to tap into the energy of the week, and then we're going to be talking about the astrology of the week. Today, started a little bit early today, a few minutes early, trying to do Aries things, show up early. How's everybody doing? Thank you for being here. Let's wait for more people to tap in. I'm just gonna get to shuffling with the cards. This is a very aggressive time. This week is looking aggressive. We've been in some kind of challenging energy for the last couple weeks. The full moon in Libra was not all that it was cut out to be. Everybody coming in, thank you for being here. We're gonna be talking about the astrology of the week. This goes from April 6th until April 13th. We're going to be pulling some tarot to tap into the energy of the week, and then we're going to talk about the astrology. One of the things I was just saying right now is how the energy of this full moon in Libra has been very contentious, has been very inflammatory, has been very difficult, it's been very hard. There's been a lot of arguments, a lot of fights, and things like this. This is because we are in Aries season, right? But also Saturn's in Aries. So, it's Saturn in Aries and this being Aries season and the Sun and Saturn transiting together this season in the sign of Aries. There's a lot of things about around battles for power and boundaries in relationships and the way power dynamics show up in relationships, how we go about compromising, how we go about forgiving. Everybody coming in, thank you guys for being here. Welcome. We're just diving in. I'm just talking very loosely about the astrology of the moment, how difficult this full moon in Libra has been, and how difficult this Aries season has been. This is because we've been in 12th house, 8th house energy, Even though the new moon in Aries, we're not at that we're not at that new moon energy quite yet. The full moon in Libra, full moons are about release, completion, ending, surrender. And the reason why we've been in like 12th house, 8th house energy where people have been sick, people have been ill, people have been losing jobs, people have been kind of like heartbroken, or people have been purging, going through some kind of transformation or change, or there's some kind of ending, or there's some kind of moment of crisis possibly for a lot of people that they're experiencing. And this could not even be in their life. This can be someone in your life that's like right next to you. This can be like your best friend. This can be your mom or your dad. This can be your brother, your sister. This can be an aunt or an uncle or cousin that's going through some kind of moment of trauma, a moment of crisis. They're going through a health battle. They're having to confront something very difficult, very hard, right? So, and this is why I say, especially for those of you that are learning astrology and you're kind of observing how astrology shows up in your own life. One of the things I always say is sometimes these energies are not hitting us directly, but they're hitting someone around us, and the energies are manifesting in someone else. These challenging energies manifesting somewhere else. So, for instance, let me explain. Then we're gonna dive into the tarot. I kind of wanted to share this story with you guys a little bit because the full moon in Libra that we had about a week ago now. Was it a week ago? Was it last Wednesday? Where's the moon at today? Hold on. Was in my eighth house on my Mars directly. So we had a full moon in Libra that was at 13 degrees Libra, which is an Aries degree. It wasn't that long ago. I must be tripping. It was like literally a few days ago. It was like 4 or 5 days ago. It was like on the what, the first? I should know this. Well, the moon's in Sagittarius now, yeah, but I'm talking about the full moon in Libra. Let me go back. Hold on. Baby, come back. You can blame it all on me. Wednesday. Last Wednesday. It was last Wednesday. Yeah, so it was a week ago. Almost. No, not a week ago. It was like 4 days ago, 5 days ago. So, anyways, the reason why I'm talking about this is because this eighth house full moon happened or this full moon in Libra happened on my eighth house Mars. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder how this is going to show up in my life. Because I've been good. I've been peachy. I've been like doing great. I've been feeling great. Um, But Mars is a significator of siblings, and Mars is a significator of men in our life, and Mars is also a significator of brothers. Okay, so my brother ended up having a crisis a little bit. And there was some very shocking information that came out, and that's how the eighth house full moon in Libra manifested for me. Because it wasn't about me, it was about my brother. Okay, because Mars rules brothers, right? Or Mars is a significator of siblings. So sometimes the full moon or a new moon formation that's happening, for instance, let's say you're married, you have a full moon or a new moon in your seventh house. It's not going to manifest with you. It's going to manifest with your husband or your spouse or your partner. That's where you're going to see the full moon or the new moon in the seventh house manifest. Because the seventh house is other people. The seventh house is your partner, your spouse, your business partner, your best friends, the people that are directly across from you, the people that you have one-on-one relationships with, right? So sometimes, these energies, they don't manifest directly with us, but they're manifesting with someone around us. And it's very important that, this is a concept that's very important to understand, especially if you are someone that's learning astrology, because many times you'll be looking for these transits to manifest in your life, but they're not actually manifesting with you. They're manifesting in someone else around you. And it's very important, it's very important to learn this because you'll miss the manifestations. You'll be like, oh yeah, that full moon didn't mean anything to me, but yeah, that full moon was, the moment that your aunt ended up having a baby, or she ended up getting pregnant, or she ended up losing her job, or that full moon was when your brother got his job, or when your brother, got married or something, right? So it's not always with you. And being able to tie that back to your chart, though, what someone else is going through to your chart is very important. So you can see the astrology manifest. But yeah, anyway, sorry about that. I just wanted to share that with you guys because those of us that are going deeper on our astrological journey, it's important to kind of see how the planets are manifesting, right? So what I was saying, anyways, now that we got like quite a few people here. So what I was saying is that this Aries season has been very tough. It's been very difficult. There's been a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of irritation, a lot of power battles, a lot of rupturing happening in the space of relationships, people asserting their authority, people asserting their power, right? And we've had a lot of eighth house, 12th house energy. Why have we had a lot of eighth house, 12th house energy? Well, the full moon in Libra was ruled by Venus, who is in Taurus, in the eighth house away from the full moon. So if you put Libra on the rising sign, if you make Libra the first house, and the eighth house away is Taurus. So this is really interesting because Venus, the Venusian signs, don't have a good relationship with each other. They are in a quincunx relationship with each other. They don't aspect each other. So if you put Taurus on the rising, you get Libra in the sixth house, and if you put Libra on the rising, you get Taurus in the eighth house. So because the full moon in Libra is ruled by Venus in the eighth house is the energy of death, rebirth, transformation, change, evolution, purging. Taxes has been another big one, right? It's tax season. We had a full moon in Libra with Venus in the eighth house. The eighth house rules taxes, right? Debts, also inheritances, alimony, insurance payments, money from the government, money from financial aid. There's been a lot of these things right now going on with the full moon in Libra cycle that we're in. We have one more week left of it. Well, we actually have more like it's like 8 days, 9 days left of it. There's been a lot of things around money coming in from interesting places or from different places, right? Or us waiting for other people to pay us back. But this eighth house energy has been about purging and releasing. It's been about clearing shit out. It's been about this karmic reset. I always think about the eighth house as compost. I always think about the eighth house is the compost pile. It's where we go ahead and we send all of our shit, all of the stuff that we don't want, all the stuff that we don't like, and we let it sit there and gestate. And then if we are alchemizing eighth house energy properly, if we're turning, if we're, what do you call this? Because I don't know have you guys ever composted? Did anybody have to do a composting when they were like in fifth or sixth grade? I actually had to compost. So I had a teacher, her name was Dr. Armstrong, and she was like one of those like naturalist, herbal, clean, green teachers, but she was doing this in like the 2000s. Like this was when I was in school in like the 2000s, okay? So she was doing this way before it became like the in thing to do. Well, anyways, we had a compost pile in the back of the classroom and we had to compost. So what we would do is we would like, I don't know if we had to bring scraps from home or I think it was like our lunch leftovers or whatever. We would like bring them and then we would like throw it in the compost and then we would all go in there and you'd have to shovel it. So the compost pile is like a living, breathing thing. Like it has like worms and it has ants and it has like it's like a living thing and you have to go in there and you have to turn it and like it's like a thing, you have to like work on it. You don't just leave it. You have to like go ahead and you have to like turn the compost and you have to like it has to be at a certain temperature and you have to like all this stuff anyways, right? But the beautiful thing is out of that compost pile, we would go ahead and take that compost and we would go ahead and like plant a garden, once the compost, or we would use the compost to go ahead and provide fertilizer and provide like, dirt to the garden. And it was so cool to see how this pile of trash over time became dirt, but it went from like being nothing, disgusting, until like very nutritious material that is used for fresh growth. And so that's what the eighth house is about. That's what eighth house energy is about. When we are in a full moon in Libra cycle, like we are now with Venus, the ruler of the full moon in the eighth house, right? It's how do you turn the lemons that you've been given into lemonade? How do you turn your trauma, your triggers, your fears, your shadows, the ick in your life into something beautiful? How do you transmute that energy to something positive, to something good, right? Like, how do you turn, lemons into lemonade? And I think that's what a lot of us are trying to figure out right now in this season. How are we trying? And this is a very tough season. We're in a very tough time astrologically, we are in an energy of the Great Depression. So it's like I've been saying it's the Great Depression 2.0. It's the Great Depression with computers and with robots. Like, it's a different energy. We're in the same energy of the Great Depression that we had in like the 1930s, but it's with like robots and technology. So it's weird. It's like a different type of thing. Um, but with that being said, all this pressure that's being applied to us collectively, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, financially, right? Um, how do we go ahead and see this as a moment of opportunity? How do we go ahead and seize the moment and be like, you know what? When everything is in crisis or when everything is breaking down and when things are no longer functioning, that's an opportunity for the new. That's an opportunity for the pioneers. That's the opportunity for the visionaries, right? When the systems are breaking down, when things are breaking down and no longer functioning, everyone's turning to everyone else and they're like, okay, who's going to be the next visionary? Who's going to be the next leader? Who's going to be the next president? Who's going to be the next? We're like wondering what is the next incarnation of humanity look like? What is the next incarnation of politics? What's the next incarnation of the economy? What's the next incarnation of business and money? What's the next incarnation of, society? What does this look like? And, this is a time where if you are someone like myself who's a visionary, who is very expansive, who is a person that sees opportunity when there's chaos everywhere. This is a time to really seize your moment. But it's tough, it's difficult. This is hard right now. And this is why I also think like right now, people that are too focused on others or too focused on relationships, they're not happy right now. They're not joyous right now. This is not a time to be focusing on other people. This is a time to be focusing on yourself. And this is what the sun and Saturn and Aries are trying to remind us. Yes, we're in a full moon in Libra cycle, but this full moon in Libra is trying to show you you cannot be better and do better. You can't grow, you can't prosper when you have this person in your life, when you're constantly thinking about this person, when you're constantly giving your energy over to other people, when you're constantly prioritizing other people in your life, you're not focusing on yourself. This is a time where we need to be recalibrating and reorienting our energy towards the self, towards our individual goals or individual passions or individual desires. One of the things I've noticed is a lot of my clients that are overly focused on relationships and other people right now, they are unhappy, they're stuck, okay? They are feeling unfulfilled, they're feeling disconnected, and they're feeling distracted. They're feeling distracted. It is one of the things I keep to myself. This is just me. As a spiritual being, I keep to myself because you know what I've realized on my spiritual path, on my spiritual journey? the majority of the relationships in our life are just distraction. I hate to say it, but they are. And they take us off path and they take us off path and they confuse us. And this full moon in Libra is trying to show you right now, these are the people that are confirming your path, that are good for you, that are healthy for you. Like that's what this full moon, these are the people that are in, they inspire you, they motivate you, they're pushing you forward, they believe in you, they support you. And these are the people that are not. You know, they are totally a distraction. They're draining you. They're exhausting you. They're giving you a lack of clarity. They're giving you a lack of consistency. They're giving you a lack of support. And when you are surrounding yourself with people that are full of negativity, they're full of pessimism, they're full of conflict, they're full of rage, they're full of hatred, they're full of envy, they're full of jealousy, they're full of lack mentality, they're full of desperation, they're full of avoidance, they're full of whatever, right? It's really hard to focus on yourself and to do your own thing and to stay committed to your goals and your vision and your dream, right? So the new moon in Aries that we have coming up in about a week, that's going to be a huge launching point for a lot of people. Yes, we're in Aries season, but we just had a full moon in Libra, right? So we're still clearing things out. Oh, and the other reason why there's like been 12th house energy. So this is the other thing I wanted to explain. And this energy is going to shift this week going into next week with this like 12th house energy. We're really going to be in first house energy next week, like kind of feeling more energetic, more ambitious, more excited. We're not going to be feeling so kind of lost in the sauce or maybe so disconnected. Maybe some of us have been feeling a little bit more avoidant, a little bit more escapist because of the 12th house energy. The reason being that there's 12th house energy is because the ruler of Aries, which is Mars, is in the 12th house to the sun. So if you put Aries on the ascendant, right? You put the sun in Aries on the ascendant, the ruler of Aries is Mars. And we have Mars in the 12th house in Pisces to the sun. So this is like that when the ruler of the sun is in the 12th house to itself, okay, we get put into this energy of the 12th house, which is delusion, escapism, self-sabotage, self-destruction, avoidance, you know, and also kind of like hidden things, right? Maybe this period has been feeling a little reclusive for some folks. It's been confusing because, you know, we have a lot of people telling us, "Oh, it's Aries season. It's the year of the horse. It's time to go. It's time to get started. It's time to get moving." Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. We still have Mars and Pisces behind the sun. We just had a full moon in Libra with that had Venus in the eighth house. Wait a minute, wait a minute. Mercury's still recovering from his retrograde in Pisces. Mercury's still in Pisces. Mars and Mercury are still in Pisces. We're not quite there yet. We're gonna feel this launch energy more so with the new moon in Aries coming up. Okay. So I think we just need to sit pretty. I think we need to let the rest of this 12th house, 8th house energy from the full moon in Libra and from Mars being in the 12th sign to the sun in Aries, like we need to let it dissipate. We need to let it go. Okay. We need to just let this energy dilute. Mars will be going into, I'm about to post some cards right now, by the way. Um, Mars is about to go into Aries. We've also been dealing with the Venus Pluto square, so that hasn't been nice. I'll talk about that when we get to the astrology. The Venus Pluto square has been a big purging that we've been doing around love and values and kind of like shedding of the old. There's been a lot of shedding. Let's see here. Mars goes into Aries on, and then is really on. It gets a little crazy as we get towards Taurus season. The energy is going to get a little crazy because Mars and Mercury are going to be getting it going to Aries. So Mars goes into Aries on the 9th, I believe. Hold on. Hold on, wait a minute. Oh, the 10th. The 10th of April. Mars goes into Aries. So when Mercury and Mars enter Aries, it's gonna be on. It's gonna be a little spicy. We're gonna have a few days. Um, Around like the 14th, 15th-ish, somewhere around there, where Mars is going to go into Aries. And that might be around our new moon. We get there. When we get there, we'll get there, okay? But yeah, if you're feeling a type of way right now, don't be surprised, okay? All right, let's pull some cards. Let's see what Spirit has to say. How y'all doing, by the way? How's everybody doing? How's everybody's weekend? It's beautiful over here in Portland. The rain is gone. The sun is shining. All right, Spirit, what do you got for us? What are some messages for the people this week? Let's go ahead and pull these cards. Should I take this card? There's a card that fell out, but I'm just gonna put it back. If it's meant to come out again, it'll come out. Spirit, what do we got for the people this week? What kind of guidance, what kind of insight, what kind of wisdom can we give them? Okay, there's a card that flew out. I'm gonna take it. The Three of Swords. Three of Swords. Okay, well, someone is the Three of Swords. Disappointment. Disappointment, heartbreak, loss, frustration, self-antagonizing. Oh, being antagonistic to the self, being hard on yourself, judging yourself, criticizing yourself, feeling like you're not where you should be. Mm-mm. We got to clear this out. We got to let this go. We got to let this. Okay, it's like, you know what it is? We we especially if you're in America, we grew up in a society that told all of us that we should all be something great. We're like, oh, you're gonna be a president, you're gonna be a celebrity, you're gonna be a musician, you're gonna be a movie star, right? And because of this kind of like brainwashing around greatness that we've experienced here in the States, a lot of people are excessively hard on themselves, and there's like this internalized sense of like, I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, I'm never going to be great, I'm never going to do something epic or awesome or amazing or whatever. And what Spirit is saying is we got to kind of let this go, because this is the reason why there's so much self-antagonization, or this is the reason why there's so much self-rejection or like self-judgment or self-criticism. It's kind of like this idea that we're not living up to the expectations of the American dream in some type of way, or we're not living up to this idea that like, oh, I'm here to do something great or do something famous or whatever. And let me tell you something. You need to let this go. We need to let this go because let me tell you what's happening is the way the weight of potential, or the weight of possibility, or the weight of like the ambition or the weight of the dream or whatever, it's like keeping us in like what do you call this? It's like paralysis in some type of way. It's like an optimistic paralysis, a goal paralysis, an achievement paralysis, something like this. So Spirit is saying is like let go of expectations of others. Let go of society's expectations. Let go of your parents' expectations. Let go of your own expectations. Like, just let go of this kind of burden and this pressure that's causing us to not really operate or not really function, or it's like shutting us down. Because this energy is like shutting us down. Okay. And we need to understand right now, like with this energy, with the Three of Swords coming out as the first card, we need to understand that, like, the mission is deeper and the mission is greater. And the mission is not so much about what's happening in the outside world and what you're doing in the outside world. Your success and your achievement and your mission has everything to do with what's in here and what's in here, is what Spirit is saying. Because Spirit is saying it's the inner world that is of utmost important right now, as the outer world is kind of like crumbling, or the outer world is kind of like in chaos, or the outer world is in transition. It's it looks like crumbling. It looks like chaos. It looks like death. But you know what it is? The outer world is in a state of metamorphosis and transition. Mother Earth is evolving. She's shedding. It's painful. Okay. So when that process is happening, what's the best thing to do? Go within, work on the heart, work on the spirit, work on the soul, work on the mind, work on the emotions. From that place of inner work, the outer work becomes possible and the path reveals itself. This is one of the things that Spirit is saying. Because the Three of Swords coming out as the first card for this week is telling me there's a lot of things around people feeling defeated, people feeling exhausted, people feeling disappointed, people feeling upset, people feeling brokenhearted. There's a lot of this energy of like, it's a very like draining, low energy that I'm getting with this card. And Spirit is saying it's like, go within the self and do some inner work and stop expecting so much of yourself. Sometimes the most you can do in a day is like make up your bed and like make yourself breakfast and make yourself like a cup of coffee. Like that's okay. I want you guys to think about like, okay, I want you guys to think about this. Think about this like go back like, I don't know, 10,000 years in humanity. Okay. Before we had cars and TVs and jobs and things like this, what do you think the everyday person did every day? Like, what do you think the everyday person's life looked like before we had cars and TVs and iPhones and iPad and electricity and gasoline and we had all these? What do you think their day-to-day life looked like? It was a whole lot of nothing. That's what Spirit is telling me. It was a whole lot of nothing. They just be sitting around, looking, just on the porch, chilling, talking to this person, and just chilling, not doing a lot of nothing. Okay? And Spirit is saying it's kind of like we need to kind of reclaim this kind of the beauty of a simple life, of simple living, and the beauty of simple existence. Because this is why our nervous systems are so fucked up right now. It's because we are in a place, the society has overwhelmed us with function, has overwhelmed us with doing, has overwhelmed us with performance, has overwhelmed us with activity, with obligation, with tasks. Like this society is very Virgo energy. You got a list. You got to do this. You got to do this. It's like we're always feeling like we're late. We're always feeling like we're late. Like we're 2 minutes behind, 3 minutes behind. There's always that next task. There's always that next thing to do. All that is distraction. I want you to understand this. They intentionally keep us busy and keep us, bogged down with activity because they don't want us to think. They don't want us to ponder. They do not want us to wonder. They don't want us to question. So if you're keeping someone busy, if you're keeping someone active, if you're keeping someone mentally occupied all the time, right? They don't have time to sit there and wonder and think and ponder and question. So it's an intentional thing. So we need to reclaim our peace. We need to reclaim our silence. We need to reclaim our boredom. We need to reclaim our nothingness, this kind of like sitting and being patient and like wondering and pondering and like going back to the old days before technology was around, where simple living, stop putting so much pressure on yourself. Stop. You don't have to be president. You don't have to be a rock star. You don't have to be, a guru with 1 million followers. You don't have to be those things. Like you can go ahead and just be you. You can go ahead and be nothing and do nothing. And that's beautiful and that's fine. And even that is sacred, you know? Even that is divine. Small work, simple work, no work. Okay? You think, going back, okay, do you think that a lot of the gurus and a lot of the prophets, do you think they work? They have jobs? No, they don't. They don't. They, gurus, going all the way back, they just got to exist. They're just their presence, their energy, their contact with daily people is enough. You see, we put so much expectation on ourselves. We got to let this go, my loves. Spirit is saying we're bogged down, we're burdened, and we need to start to free ourselves, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, within ourselves, creating space. All right, let me pull some more cards. The Three of Swords is like, yeah, this disappointment. And you know what? Let me tell you one thing, okay? And of course, the Five of Wands had to come out because it's Aries season. Who's gotten in a fight this year? The last few weeks. Misa just came. Look at Misa just joined at the perfect time. The Five of Wands. You know, who's been fighting? Who's been throwing blow? Look at this. Misa just joined at the perfect time. That's her husband right there. Look at this is Misa right there. Look at that's her. That's her husband, and those are her kids all in the back. You fought with your sister. My yeah. You know what? Let me tell you one of the things. Okay, let me tell you something. All right, because I got the devil card coming out here after the Five of Wands, and let me tell you what I'm picking up with the Five of Wands. Okay. And even like this could be for Steph, this can be for Misa, for those of you that are like, you fought your sister, you're fighting your husband, you're fighting your kids, you're fighting everybody. You need to get to the root of the problem and the issue because the fight is just the surface level manifestation of the deeper wound here. What I'm getting, the devil card is telling me we have resentment, we have betrayal, we have disappointment, a heartbreak on our heart. So this is why we're mad. We're mad because we were disrespected. We were mad because we were treated unfairly. We're mad because we never felt seen or understood or loved. We're mad because we felt that we were lied to or we were deceived. We're mad about these things, and you rightfully so. How fucking dare they? Okay? You have a right to be mad. But do you think fighting is going to solve anything? Or is it going to make the problem worse? Fighting, I swear to God, 120% of the time, it only makes it worse. It only makes it worse. It only makes it worse. And then all of a sudden, you're burning bridges. You're trying to get closer. Three of Cups. And all you get is more disappointment and more frustration and more heartbreak, and you're hurting your feelings, and then you're hurting their feelings, and everyone's feelings are hurt. What did that do for us? Nothing. We need to find a better strategy. Nine of Swords. Look at this. Nine of Swords in reverse. Five of Cups. What is going on with this energy? Uh, I don't like this. This is telling me we're too much in our heads. We're disappointed. We're mm, we're choosing pride and power and ego over peace and love and compassion. So they're showing me, Spirit is showing me that we're approaching our relationships in very selfish ways. And this may not be you. This could also be the person across from you that's approaching the relationship in a very selfish way. And because there's this selfishness abound in the relationship, and we have competing desires, or we have desires that are bringing us into conflict, or one person is doing this and the other person is doing that, and right, we're not getting closure, we're not getting forgiveness, we're not getting healing. We're only creating more anger, more rage, more woundedness, more pain, more anguish. This tells me, you know what Spirit is saying? We got to be vulnerable and we got to be honest with what we're really feeling. And we got to practice vulnerability, even though we got to be vulnerable with the people that we're really fucking mad at and we're angry at and we don't want to be vulnerable with because we don't want to come across as weak. And let me tell you, sometimes what you think is weak is the most powerful thing that you can do. A lot of, right? Pride and ego keeps us very, very, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm not going to open up. We get very, very stubborn and we put ourselves in a corner and we make it really hard to work through a relationship struggle or relationship conflict. We make it really hard to come back into harmony and peace when we are in this kind of mode of they're wrong and I'm right and they said this and they said that until they apologized, right? When actually, deep down inside, what do you want? You want a fucking hug. You want to cuddle. You want them to tell you that they love you and they appreciate you and they admire you. You want to feel seen and feel understood. Deep down inside, you want nurturing, reconciliation, peace, harmony, forgiveness, healing, closeness, intimacy. But on the outside, You're fighting, you're arguing, you're creating more conflict. What are we doing? What are we doing? So this is about getting our desires and our actions in alignment. If you want to make it work, if you want to heal it, if you want to fix it, if you want to find peace and balance and harmony, then you need to connect the desire with the action because the action and the desires are not they're not driving in the same lane. They're not going in the same direction. Okay? And we keep getting triggered. I don't know. Some of y'all got some fucking triggers that you got to work on as well. And I'm saying this because your triggers are causing more issues in your connections than you think, is what Spirit is saying. Like your trust issues, your jealousy issues, your power control issues, your insecurities, your self doubt, your being overly demanding, overly critical, your avoidance. You being avoidant. What are you avoiding? And then what are we avoiding? And then we get to a point where we explode, you know? Or all of a sudden it's like we explode because we've been holding on to something that we've been avoiding. Spirit is saying, no, 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 no. You gotta talk about it. You gotta address it. You gotta approach it. You gotta air it out. Can't avoid it. We can't be running away from these things. Like if there's issue, tension, problem, whatever in our connections, like we can't run away. We can't avoid, my loves. We gotta meet it head on, because that's the only place that we can find, like, that's where healing can happen. That's where growth can happen. It's really interesting because like these cards that are coming out, Nine of Swords, Seven of Cups, Five of Cups. I don't know. This is like it feels like this is a very confusing week for people, you know? It feels like people they're like wondering what's next for me or where am I? Where am I going? What's the thing? Um, and with that, Spirit is saying is like let yourself be present for this moment of transition and change and evolution. And instead of focusing so much on what's happening around you with other people or focusing so much on the crisis and the drama, really take some space, disconnect, feel into yourself, get quiet within yourself, and think about what do I want in the future? Where do I want to go? What is this moment? What is this conflict? What is this tension? What is this anxiety? What is this paranoia? What is this frustration with this person? What is this trying to show me? God, Spirit, the divine, what are you trying to show me? What am I missing? What am I missing? What am I not seeing? Some of you are willingly blinding yourself because you don't want to see something. That's very obvious. It's right in front of you. And you don't want to see it because it hurts. The truth, it's a very painful truth that we got to confront. Because Spirit is saying, like, you can't live in delusion. You can't lie to yourself. Like, you got to look at things as they are and accept things as they are. And you got to be willing to speak truth and address truth. And you can't live in ignorance. You can't live in delusion, my love. Seven of Cups in reverse. You can't live in avoidance. You can't live in ignorance. You can't live in delusion. Because let me tell you, reality eventually, one day reality will smack you in the face and it's gonna humble you and it's gonna make it really difficult, really hard. She's a runner, she's a track star. Kagome says, my trauma response to prevent getting hurt by leaving before it happens, the impulse, but I haven't ran. Yeah, that's the thing. We have to be very aware of our traumas and our triggers and some of the pattern behavior that we have because of our trauma, right? But we can't let it influence or sabotage what we got going on. But anyways, I want to go back to this. The Seven of Swords and Nine of Swords in reverse. This is telling me that we need to confront truth. We need to be more honest with the people around us. We need to be more honest. I'm gonna tell you this right now. We need to be honest. We need to be vulnerable, especially with the connections that we're trying to fix or repair or trying to heal. Okay, we need to be honest. We need to be vulnerable, and we also got to accept truth. Like we can't lie to ourselves. We can't pretend like, oh no, this person is not like this. It's hard. Like Once someone reveals themselves to be a liar, once someone reveals themselves to be a deceiver, once someone reveals themselves to be a manipulator, it's really hard to keep going in those relationships and navigate them as if they're normal. No. Once you find out a piece of information about someone that they're not as trustworthy, they're not as honest or whatever, it is very natural for boundaries to go up. It's very natural for space to be taken. It's very natural for us to be like, oh, let me, be a little cautious around this person. Let me be a little cautious around this person, right? A lot of us, what happens is when someone reveals the shadows of their character to us, we continue to give them the benefit of the doubt, and then we go into conflict within our own consciousness because we have this version of them that we knew that we met that's like sweet and kind and loving, and then we have this other version of them that they've shown us or that we have figured out or that we've come to experience and we've been a victim of, right? That is a liar, a deceiver, a manipulator, right? And things like this. And so we deal with this conflict within our own psyche around like, they're good and they're bad. It's like, and we ping pong, or, psychologically, a lot of people put themselves in a lot of distress because they're doing this ping ponging around, the good version of someone that they have in their mind and then like the bad version, right? Like there's this version of someone that they love and they admire and that is great and they met and it's sexy, whatever. And there's this other version that's like a deceiver, it's like a liar, that's like not honest, that's like whatever, whatever, a manipulator, an abuser, whatever. And we got to reconcile these two things. People can be and both, it's like and both. They are this and that. They're both of these things, right? And it's like and it's like what Spirit is saying is kind of like you got to hold someone accountable to the truth of who they are, and you got to accept people for their shadows, or you got to be willing to understand like this is a shadow. This is and if you see a shadow, if you identify a shadow behavior or a shadowy thing about somebody, you gotta, it's like tell them, because they may not be aware of it. I'm gonna tell you, the ego is really weird. The ego is blinding. A lot of people are so unaware of themselves and unaware of their negative or bad behaviors and habits and how they hit other people because it's literally that behavior or that whatever is a survival instinct. It was a defense mechanism. It's a way of being, and they don't question it and they just accept it. Or the ego finds ways to permit it as well, right? So, and people do this a lot. People validate their bad behavior because it'll, like, for instance, right? Someone will be like, oh yeah, like, I lie every so often. I'm not a liar, but then you notice that they're like a chronic liar. Well, guess what? They validate that behavior of being a liar because sometimes for some people the ends justifies the means. And lying for them has got them very, very far in life. So they see lying as a strategy, right? And they don't see nothing wrong with it because it's actually giving them more benefit. But they may be blind to the damage that it does in their relationships. And they may be blind to the fact that, yeah, they may be at the top of the food chain in their career, whatever, but they have no friends. They have no social circle. Nobody trusts them because why? They're lying. They're a liar. They always lie, right? And lying is really great in the work career world for some people, right? In certain fields, being a liar. But lying is terrible for relationships and partnerships and longevity of them, right? So it's like you have to, if you see someone, if someone's a liar, you notice it as a pattern, you're a fucking liar. You're a liar. You got to work on this. This is an issue. This is a problem. And it could be really hard to be honest with the people that we love, to tell them very difficult, hard things about their character. You know, I think you're a jealous person. I think you're envious. And I think you got to work on this jealousy, envy thing that you got going on. I'm not saying that from a place of judgment. I'm saying that from a place. How do you tell someone that they're jealous or envious? How do you tell someone that they are being a mean girl, right? That they're being hateful, right? How do you tell someone that they're a deceiver or a liar or being manipulative? Most people aren't going to want to hear that. But you know what? Let me tell you, even if you tell someone something like this and they get triggered, like let's say they get super defensive, super triggered by it, then you did your job. Because if they're triggered in defensive, you know what that's telling you behaviorally? For those of us that majored in psychology, or that took psychology classes, that tells us that there's a little bit of truth in that statement. Because if it wasn't true, they wouldn't be triggered by it. But when people are bothered, or people are only bothered and triggered by the truth a lot of times, you know? The truth really irritates people, especially if people live in, if they love living in lies and deception, you know? If they like to live in untruth, when you hold them accountable to truth, they're going to get very triggered and very defensive. But you did your job because why? You planted the seed and you let them know, I see you. And if I see you, other people can see you too. And once someone has this awareness, like, oh, wait, oh shit, I'm not getting away with it. This person sees me. And guess what? Other people may see me as well. Um, Hopefully, it does that inner work of starting to shift them and change them. A lot of times it doesn't, though. People will double down on those qualities, right? And it'll create woundedness in the relationship. But you really got to ask yourself, you know, if is that your task as a spiritual being on the spiritual path, you know, with those that, especially those that are close to you that you love dearly, you know, being truthful and honest with them could be a very difficult thing, and having to illuminate hard truths can cause some damage or destruction, right? But I think it's the right thing to do, you know. The last cards we're gonna go over is these three. I finally got some positive cards here. Get out of your mind this week, my loves. Okay, get out of your mind this week. Don't take things too serious. Chill out, relax, go outside, go get some fun, go get some sun, go have some fun, go hang out with some people that love you. Don't put too much pressure on yourself this week. Like this, these cards are very tough. These are not easy cards. These are not, look at the Nine of Swords, like the Seven of Cups in reverse, the Five of Wands, the Three of Swords, the Devil card. Like, baby, what are we haunted by? Like, confront your demons, okay? Confront the shadows in your life. Purge, release, compost, do what you got to do. I want to go over these three cards though, because I really like these cards on the bottom of the deck. Um, Knight of Pentacles, King of Pentacles, and the Sun card. This is a time of redemption and renewal. This is a time of clarifying your values. This week is really good for money. This week is really good for business. This week is really good for any kind of creative energy. So let's say you've been wanting to write a book, you start writing your book. Let's say you've been wanting to paint, you've been wanting to draw, you've been wanting to act, you've been wanting to record yourself, you've been wanting to do whatever. This is a really good week for sun things. Sun things. The sun is exalted in Aries. The sun's exalted in Aries. What's the sun about? Ego, performance, character, personality, your creativity, your inner child. Sharing this solar energy with, look at this, literally your inner child. Like, literally your inner child, the sun card. Coming back home to your innocence, to your youth, to your joy, your creativity. Like, get out of this funk energy. Okay? Go outside, get some sun. Okay? Go make some money. Figure out how to make money. King of Pentacles, Knight of Pentacles. You know what Spirit is saying as well, though? It takes time to build something. It takes time for a garden to grow. It takes time for a seed to turn into a sprout, to turn into a vine, to turn into a tree. It takes time. Knight of Pentacles, King of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles is the slowest moving card in the deck. He's not actually moving. He's the only horse that is actually in a stationary position. He's not actually moving. But look at this. If you take a look at the Knight of Pentacles, look at the land. Do you see it? Look at the rows. Look at the crops. You see this? Has it grown yet? No. No. This land has just been freshly toiled, freshly seeded. It ain't reaping what it has sown. What we have sown, we are not reaping quite yet. Okay? So, what Spirit is saying with the Knight of Pentacles and the King of Pentacles, it's like, get back to your values, get back to your health. Oh, this is another one. Health. I like, if I had nails, I'd be one of those like ASMR tarot readers. They're always doing the tapping on the cards. This actually sounds kind of nice, actually. Even though I don't have nails, still sounds nice. But what Spirit is saying is get back to your health, get back to your wellness, get back to your values, get back to the simple life. Be a farmer. You know, Um, being a farmer is so simple. Like go, go till the land. Go tend to the animals, like go feed the chickens. You know what I mean? Go feed the birds. Maybe go to the beach and bring some bread with you and go feed the pigeons. Maybe that right there will just is what you need. Something very simple, very easy, a moment where you could connect to spirit or connect to nature. Spirit is saving, even like going to the beach or going on a nature walk or going to a forest or going camping, getting out into nature, getting in the sun. Like this energy is telling me we need some kind of renewal. We need to come back to the simple life. We need to come back to the energy of nurturance, grounded land, earth, like stability. This energy, these are unstable times. But these kind of practices, like going out into nature, playing with the animals, feeding the birds, getting the sunlight, doing creative, fun stuff, lighthearted stuff, this is going to be the energy that kind of helps us navigate this period. Okay. Or these are the activities and the tasks to help us navigate this period. Okay. Spirit is saying for those of you that are thinking about career, job changes, or work stuff, this may be a good week to put in applications. Um, this week could also be really good for business planning or business deals as well. That's what the Knight of Pentacles and the King of Pentacles are telling me. We really got to be focusing on the self. We got to look into the self right now, okay? And whatever endings, I really do feel like this week, before as we go into our new moon, the full moon in Libra, some absolute endings. Like I don't know, my loves. I think next week is going to be a little bit of a crisis week, okay? But we'll talk about it when we get there. I think the Aries season, the rest of Aries season is going to be a little tense. I had the Ten of Swords on the bottom of the deck. So the next card I pulled was the Ten of Swords, and the Ten of Swords was giving me absolute endings with people. Okay, let's talk about the astrology. 1250. Did you guys enjoy that? Let go of the expectations. Stop being so hard on yourself. Stop demanding so much of yourself or expecting so much of yourself. Okay? Living is so much easier than you're making it out to be. All you got to do is be human. All right, let's talk about the astrology of the week. Simple living, getting back to simple living. It's so easy to be human. That should be our mantra this week. It's living is so easy. Being a human is so easy. It's simple, it's easy. I make it complicated. I'm making my own life complicated. I'm making things harder than they need to be. Living life is easy. It's simple. It's not as complicated as you think it is. You got to believe that. That should be your affirmation. That should be our collective affirmation for this week. Being human is easy. Being human is simple. Living a human life is easy. There's nothing complicated about this. It's a walk in the park. I might go for a walk in the park today, actually, considering it. Maybe that's what we need, is a nice walk in the park. Simple. Life is easy. 29-degree Cancer rising right now. That's funny. I've been in my fifth house. The rising is about to go into Leo. Okay, so let's talk about the astrology of the week. So we have the moon in Sag today and tomorrow. This moon in Sag transit, we are wrapping up karmically, my loves. We're wrapping up the nodes in Virgo and Pisces. So I just want you guys to understand mutable signs, especially the moon in Sag today, tomorrow. Mutable signs for the next 3 months. Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sag. You guys are wrapping up a certain chapter, okay? The nodes are wrapping up in Pisces and Virgo. They're at 7 degrees right now. 7 degrees is a degree of relationships and partnerships. And then this week, I do believe the nodes will be going to 6 degrees, I believe. Let me see, which is going to be a Virgo degree, which is work. So with the nodes at 7 degrees right now, we just had a full moon in Libra, especially for mutable signs, Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sag. There's a little bit of a clearing things out that the mutable signs are kind of like doing still, and there's still like a reorienting and a redirecting that the nodes are doing for Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sag. So yeah, so by next week the nodes will be at 6 degrees, which is a degree of work and jobs. So this week it's kind of like the nodes are focusing on relationships, especially for mutable signs. Where next week, like work career stuff is going to be a theme. I do think that when the South Node goes to Virgo or goes to 6 degrees next week, we're going to be seeing more layoffs. So if you are a mutable sign, Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sag, if you have mutable, if you have mutable placements, or if you have mutable signs affecting your sixth, second, and 10th house. So if you have Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sag in houses 10, 6, or 2, especially Virgo and Pisces, okay? Things around work and career could be a little shoddy, could be a little uneasy, okay? Um, the whole work career thing has been hitting the mutable signs specifically the most. So Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sag are the ones that have been getting hit by the mass layoffs. I've been seeing it in the charts of mutable people mostly. Okay. So we just want to be aware of that. The reason why I'm talking about this for mutable signs is because the moon is in Sag squaring the nodes today. And the moon's going to be in Sag tomorrow, separating from the nodes, but the moon in Sag tomorrow squares Mars. So, today, tomorrow can be a little rough. Um, because of the moon square the nodes today and then the moon square Mars tomorrow. We do have a moon in Gemini or moon in Sag square Mercury in Pisces. So the moon Mercury square could be about a moment of miscommunication or even a moment of information that you receive that's kind of like positive in some type of way. This is kind of a very energized moon transit though, because the sun is in Aries trining the moon in Sag, right? So this is a trine. The sun and the moon are trining each other. So when it comes to public affairs, outside affairs, social affairs, today and tomorrow are good for those things. When it comes to communication, though, like getting documentation done, submitting information, things like that could be a little wonky. One of the things I do want to say is with Mercury and Pisces this week and next week, before you submit documentation or paperwork, make sure you have everything that you need. Don't forget things. Don't like if you're going on vacation, don't forget your documentation. Be mindful of losing objects. Mercury and Pisces has just been bringing a lot of like lost objects, people forgetting to bring certain documentation, um, miscommunication issues, things being omitted, or even like mistakes with documentation and paperwork. There's been a lot of mistakes with documentation and paperwork and stuff like this because Mercury's not in a good sign. He's in his fall right now in Pisces and he's recovering right from his retrograde. So he's still retracing his steps. He's picking up speed. We're pretty much out of the Mercury shadow period, but we're gonna be fully exiting it this week for sure. But yeah, Moon square Mercury today to tomorrow. We just want to be mindful. Moon and Mercury, they are not friends. They don't get along. The moon has everything to do with things that are intuitive and things that are emotional, and the Mercury has everything to do with things that are mental and things that are cerebral, right? The Mercury is a very matter of fact, very logical planet, where the moon is a very not matter of fact, imaginative, creative, non tangible planet. So when they are in a square with each other, they're not in a good aspect with each other, right? The moon square Mercury tomorrow, from today to tomorrow, could also create some issues or problems at the jobs, with the workplace, with neighbors, coworkers, bosses. So just be mindful of this, especially if you are a mutable sign, Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sag. This energy is going to be hitting you the most. Mars in Pisces has been hitting the mutable signs, Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sag, the most, right? Mars in Pisces has been stimulating the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. These signs have been feeling more agitated, they've been feeling more stimulated, they've been feeling more angry, more assertive, they've been feeling more courageous, they've been feeling more of that energy, but it's been an emotional energy, it's been an emotional energy. Mars is in Pisces, right? A water sign. So Mars has been stimulating our emotions, and that's why people have been feeling very angry. It's the combination of Mars and Pisces with the Sun, Saturn, and Aries, and us being in Aries season. This kind of combination makes us very, very sensitive, and it makes us easily triggered, especially victim energy. You know, if we feel like a victim right now, like the victim archetype is alive and well in the world right now. Okay, I will say Mars and Pisces is definitely a victim placement. You know, Pisces is the sign of the victim. So when we have Mars and Pisces ruling over, this Aries season, we got to be mindful of victimizing others or being victimized or feeling like a victim to our circumstance because what happens, we get powerless, right? So if Aries is a sign of power and if Pisces is a 12th sign to Aries, then Pisces is a sign of powerlessness. And we see this with Pisces energy and 12th house energy all the time. Pisces in the 12th house is about the loss of one's agency, the loss of one's power. And we see this because why? The 12th house has a lot to do with jails, has a lot to do with hospitals, imprisonment, isolation, seclusion. It also has a lot to do with losses, right? So with the 12th house, when people do 12th house things, they're typically losing their power in some type of way. They lose their power, right? So we just got to be mindful of being kind of like in this mode of victimization and I have no power or agency in my life, we don't want to be in that energy. We got to be very mindful. We got to remind ourselves it's Aries season, power, individuality, courage, bravery, assertiveness, right? Independence. These are energies that we should be focusing on right now. Okay. Um, so the moon's going to be in Sag. Ruled by Jupiter and Cancer, which we love. Jupiter's been direct. So this is also a week where Mercury's separating from Jupiter, but Mercury's at 19 and Jupiter's at 16 right now, today, as of Monday the 6th. But this past weekend, and as Mercury is kind of separating from this trine with Jupiter, this past weekend, Mercury made a trine with Jupiter, I believe. I think it could have been on Saturday, but it might have been Friday. I'm looking at Mercury at 18, Sunday, April 5th. That Mercury Jupiter trine. Okay, it was Friday. That Mercury Jupiter trine was Friday, April 3rd. So with Jupiter, the planet of opportunity and joy and luck, and Mercury, the planet of like, communication and information and like jobs and like our day-to-day stuff, um, we may be seeing as Mercury moves forward, we may be seeing some really positive, cool things showing up in people's lives, new opportunities, people booking travel plans, possibly. This could be about Mercury trine Jupiter. This weekend could have been about people traveling or booking travel plans or preparing their next move, getting ready for the next big thing. Um, Mercury trine Jupiter. Water signs, especially, water signs, this is really good energy for you. The Mercury trine Jupiter is really good for you and earth signs, okay? It's really good for you guys. If you're a water and earth sign, this is a time where you need to be expanding, growing, taking a leap of faith, taking risks, trying something new, trying something different. And if you're not ready now, then just wait till the new moon in Aries coming up, okay, in a week or so. What's up, Monk? What up, Bunky? He's so handsome. He just got up. What's up? What's going on with you? Okay, so then let me go back. So then on Wednesday, the moon goes into Capricorn. And then the moon is looking at the cardinal signs Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, Libra. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the moon in Capricorn kind of takes on a serious tone. So the moon in Sag is fun. It's exciting. It's athletic. Today, tomorrow, moon in Sag, good time to go to the gym, good time to do some competitive sports, good time for learning, for creativity, any kind of stuff like that. But then when the moon goes into Capricorn, things get a little bit more serious, things get a little bit more tense. The moon in Capricorn is our waning square from our full moon in Libra, meaning that it's a the third quarter moon, I believe. It's either the first quarter moon or the third quarter moon. I think it's the third quarter moon. Yeah. Um, and whatever kind of stuff is meant to be activated by the full moon. So however the full moon is meant to move in our life, or whatever the full moon is meant to reveal us or show us, or if the full moon is gonna like kind of manifest something very physical in our life, very tangible in our life, especially if you're a cardinal sign, Aries, Capricorn, Cancer, Libra. It's going to be around these dates. Wednesday, Thursday of this week, the 8th and the 9th, and even, yeah, the 8th and the 9th, and maybe even Friday. Let me see. Maybe even Friday. Yeah, going all the way till Friday. Yeah, until like midday Friday. So the moon transit in Capricorn, it's going to square Sun, Saturn, in Aries. It's going to square the full moon in Libra point, and it's also going to oppose Jupiter in Cancer. This is a mixed bag. So this is a mixed bag of energy. The moon in Capricorn opposite Jupiter in Cancer, we love it. Great, good. That's really positive. No, that's like good connections. That's um, confirmations for people purchasing real estate, purchasing property. That's like people getting good news or people getting some kind of opportunity. Something good comes in is what I feel with the moon opposite Jupiter. But then the moon squares the sun and moon squares Saturn, and then the moon squaring the full moon in Libra, that could bring some tension or conflict with relationships and partnerships, and that could bring some power battles, or that can bring some challenges associated with boundaries, right? What is the moon in Capricorn trying to teach us, right? What does the moon in Capricorn want us to focus on as it's transiting Capricorn Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week? Well, it wants us to focus on boundaries and how boundaries operate in relationships, and also the rules or the expectations of our connections or relationships with others, right? Like individually, we have to free ourselves or liberate ourselves from these expectations, right? But within our relationships, maybe, I don't know, maybe there is a need for some space and some wiggle room. Maybe there is a need to redraw the lines in our relationship. Maybe we need to reinforce certain rules. Maybe we need to redraw the contract when it comes to our social connections, right? And that moon in Capricorn squaring that full moon in Libra and squaring the Saturn and the Sun, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, can really be about the drawing of the new boundaries, the drafting up of new documentation, the reconsideration or the reviewing of social contracts or even financial contracts. Moon opposite Jupiter in Cancer could also be about a consultation or a meeting with the doctor or with a lawyer or with a judge or something, right? So, this Wednesday, this energy, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with the moon in Capricorn looks very productive. It looks very structured. It looks very much about boundaries. It looks like very it's also giving the energy of business though. And I think it's because Venus is in Taurus. So this could also be about the implementation of new business ideas or business planning or something like this. You know what I mean? Venus is in Taurus, Moon's in Capricorn. You know, we're about to enter Taurus season. I always think of Taurus season as a season to make money. I have a Capricorn moon, so I always think of Taurus season as a very abundant season. Aries Taurus season, these seasons are really good for growth, for expansion, for getting new things going, So a lot of people are feeling that energy right now. But yeah, with the moon in Capricorn, moon in Capricorn ruled by Saturn in Aries as well. The moon's going to be squaring Saturn in Aries. There could be some frustration or irritation with people. There could also just be boundaries that come up very strongly, or we give someone a firm no. Okay, we give someone a firm no. Um, Signs that can be meeting someone this week. Signs that can be meeting someone this week. A lover, a spouse, a husband, a wife, a third, another wife or another husband. For some of you, a little something on the side, outside of your marriage. Sinners, repent. I'm just kidding. I don't know where that came from. My bad. Listen, I'm not the judge. I'm not the jury. Okay. Some of you stepping outside of that marriage and that relationship, teach their own. Okay. Teach their own. But signs that could meet someone this week: Scorpio and Taurus. Scorpio and Taurus, especially if you have your rising or if you have your Venus, or if you have your moon in Scorpio Taurus, if you have your rising, moon, or Venus in Scorpio Taurus, this can be a week where you meet a lover or you meet a spouse, okay? The other sign that could actually meet a lover or a spouse this week is Capricorn and Cancer. Two signs. Capricorn, Cancer. Cancer can meet a lover in a social space. Um, so cancers, if you're not outside, you should be outside right now. Go to events, go to public places, go to the restaurant, go to the supermarket. Cancer, Capricorn people, Cancer, Capricorns, go out and have fun this week, especially this upcoming weekend. You can meet a lover, you can meet a spouse. Okay. Same thing with Taurus, Scorpio. Scorpio, Scorpio, Taurus, Capricorn, Cancer. Love is like on the radar for you guys, okay? Virgo can meet a lover too, but Virgo can meet a lover at church, which is where you'll find them, okay? Being judging everybody, okay? Virgo can meet a lover at church. Virgo can meet a lover on vacation while they're traveling. A Virgo could also meet a lover on a cruise, or they can even meet a lover if they're doing like a little short distance vacation or a little like smaller vacation for the weekend. So let's say, they're going to the mountain with their girls or something like this. Venus and Taurus is really, really good for these signs for love, water and earth signs specifically, but especially Scorpio, Taurus, Capricorn, and Cancer. Okay. Really, really good time to meet a lover. All right. Um, if you're Aries or Libra, though, see the cardinal signs, I don't know, Aries, Libra, I don't know, the cardinal signs, love for you guys is a little bit more tense right now. Aries and Libra, it's just like, you guys need to figure it out. You guys need to figure out your love lives, dude. You guys need to get this together. The whole Pluto and Libra generation, Pluto and Libra, Saturn and Libra. Those of you that have that signature, you were born like 82, 83, 84. You just got everything. You got all the problem planets in Libra. You need to figure it out. Like, what are we doing? Maybe you just need to stay single. I don't know. Maybe being single for a good 10, 20 years will help you be a better lover. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys. The Pluto and Libra generation with Saturn and Libra. Y'all are just toxic. I hate to say it, but Saturn and Aries is gonna rip y'all a new one. The Pluto, Saturn, and Libra people. Saturn and Aries is going to rip you a new one. Many of you are going to be going through a divorce or separation. Some of you that have learned will be getting married, and you'll be marrying a partner that is like. But the lot of you, I don't know what to tell you about those toxic relationships that you're in, baby. You need to get together though. You know, you need to. It's really, you know what it is? It's like if you're a cardinal sign and Saturn is in Aries now, if you are, especially if you're a Libra and Aries rising or a Cancer Capricorn rising, or even if you have a moon in Libra and Aries or Cancer Capricorn, I'm gonna tell you one thing right now about Saturn and Aries. Okay, this is for you guys, especially the Pluto and Libra generation. Okay, you need to know when to hold on. You need to know when to let go. You hold on to shit that you should be letting go of, and you let go of shit that you should be holding on to. And you're just doing like many of you guys just make the worst relationship choices. You make the worst relationship mistakes. You really do. You really, really do. And I see it time and time again, you know? And you hold on to the toxic and you let go of the good. I just don't get it, dude. Get it together. Clean it up. Because I'm going to tell you, Saturn's going to test you the next 2 years. Saturn's going to show you some things. And he may take away your power. That's one of the things. So one of the things that Saturn does, this is why Saturn is like, our Saturn return is like so scary and why Saturn transits are like so tough. Saturn takes away our agency. He takes away our power. He takes away our authority. And the way that shows up in a relationship sometimes, where you've had all the power in the relationship, right? Let's say you're the one that's always like, I get to determine, right? You're the one that gets to determine if you guys are staying together, if you guys are breaking up, right? Your partner is just always going along with whatever you say, right? When you get mad or angry, you're like, okay, we're broken up, and then you guys are broken up. And then when you decide that, okay, it's time for us to get back together, you guys are back together, right? So a Saturn transit comes along, and all of a sudden, guess what? you lose your power in the relationship. Now the partner decides, I don't want to be with you. And you're like, what? You're going to leave me? How dare you leave me? No, it's now I've realized our time is done and I don't want to be with you. So what happens? You lose your power in your relationship. And this is what Saturn does a lot of times. He takes away power and authority in our life in different ways. He may have us lose a job. He may have someone break up with us. He may have us a living situation all of a sudden. The property, let's say we're renting a place, and all of a sudden the owner is like, hey, guess what? I'm selling the place. You're going to have to move out in 3 months. He takes away your agency where you have no control or power, and he forces you to do something, or he forces you to experience something and deal with something, even if you don't want to and if you don't like it. He don't care. Saturn's like, this is your karmic reckoning. This is the time. I got to teach you a lesson. Okay. So this is why we can't be overly controlling or we can't be overly powerful in our life. Like if we are always holding power over others and we're abusing power over others, right? And we are always kind of like being controlling and domineering. Saturn will come. We'll have a Saturn transit. We'll get where he takes away all of that, and all of a sudden you're in jail, right? It's like I think about this with like presidents that go to jail, like Maduro, right? Most powerful guy in your country. You have all this power, right? You're the freaking the president, right? And you all of a sudden, from one day to the next, you're being flown to the United States and you're in Air Force Ones in prison in sweatpants. Like this is what Saturn can do. Saturn can be like, you know what? All that power that you were abusing, I'm going to take it away from you and now I'm going to put you in jail because Saturn also rules prisons, right? So it's something that we want to think about. We don't want to abuse our power with other people over others. We don't want to overly control or overly dominate others. We got to be very mindful of power in our relationship with it. But what I will say is for those of you that do have cardinal moons or cardinal rising, Saturn in Aries is going to show you some things about power and how it shows up in relationships. And he may test you because why? Aries is one of the signs of power. Aries is ruled by Mars and the sun, which is the planet of authority. The sun is the king and the queen planet, right? It's the planet of it's the main. Sun and Saturn are both authoritative planets. They both represent power, but in different ways, right? Saturn is like absolute power, abusive power, where Sun is good power, the good father, good king. Um, but Saturn, right? He's here to challenge the sun and hold the sun accountable to even when the sun is not doing good, right? But Saturn is going to be testing the cardinal signs, cardinal risings, cardinal moon specifically in the relationship life for sure. And this is I'm gonna tell you right now, one of the transits you should always look out for. I'm gonna tell you this is when Saturn comes into an aspect with your moon. So for those of you with a Capricorn, Cancer moon, Aries, Libra moon, you want to take a look at the next few years. When is Saturn going to come into an exact square opposition or conjunction with my moon? Because I'm going to tell you right now, the Saturn moon transit is really hard. And a lot of times it shows up very physically in your life. It's going to show up in your health. It's going to show up in your body. It's going to show up in your home. It's going to show up with your family. It's going to show up with your kids. It's going to show up with your spouse. It's going to show up in a very personal, immediate, physical way, right? So you want to just monitor that, okay? If you're a cardinal moon or cardinal rising, especially when Saturn is coming into an aspect with your angles or aspect to your moon, okay? Because you will feel it. I promise you, you're going to feel it, or something was going to happen in your life that's going to be very Saturnian. It's very sad, probably, or very difficult, very hard, or very successful. It could be a moment of success and prominence, right? Saturn is not always bad. Sometimes he exalts you and he rewards you and he retires you and he gives you your flowers and things like this. Not always, but a lot of times he does. So then, all right, anyways, let's keep moving. I got a little tangent, went off on a little tangent there. So then the moon, so I was talking about the moon in Capricorn. So the reason why we got into that whole conversation is because the moon is in Capricorn and Venus is in Taurus. So that's why I started talking about love for some signs, and why I started talking about the cardinal signs with the moon with Saturn and Aries. Okay. So then Okay, the other important thing is on this date, on the 10th, Mars goes into Aries. Well, he's actually going to Aries on the 9th, it looks like. Once I put the time in, actually. So he's Mars actually goes into Aries on the 9th. He's at 29 degrees Pisces on the 8th. He goes to Aries on the 9th, where he's at 0. And he's kind of sitting at 0 degrees until the 10th. And then he's going to be at 1 degrees by the 11th. Okay. So when Mars reaches a critical degree, 29 degrees, 0 degrees, and 29 and 0 degrees are critical degrees. The first degree is kind of a critical degree too. 29th and the first degree could be a little rough, but especially 29 and 0. Okay. When Mars gets the critical degree, and at the last degree of any sign, especially Mars, the lesser malefic, the demon. Okay, Mars is the demon. He's the demon planet. Well, actually, K2 and Rahu, the south node and the north node, are known as demonic, but Mars is demonic too. Okay, Mars is a demon planet. Um, why is Mars a demon planet? Can anybody tell me why? It's because Mars is actually the archetype of the devil. So the archetype of the devil actually comes from Mars. And if you take a look, the sign of Aries, Aries has horns. The other planet that is ruled by Mars, or the other sign that's ruled by Mars, is Scorpio, and Scorpio has a what? A tail. So one of the things that we always see with the devil is not only is he always red, which is Mars, right? Mars is red, the red planet, okay? But he always has horns, and he always has a tail, because Mars rules over Aries, which gives him the horns, and Mars rules over Scorpio, which gives him the tail. So the archetype of the devil actually comes from Aries and Scorpio and Mars. Okay. So with Mars at 29 degrees going to 0 degrees, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, when he's at these critical degrees, we can experience like crisis or trauma, or Mars can cause a moment of destruction. So Mars rules over guns, violence, arguments, fights, explosives, fires, So these are things that you want to be very mindful of. Pay attention, watch it in the news. I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna see this. You're gonna see this, especially Wednesday and Thursday. You're gonna see like crisis energy in the sky. You're gonna see it on the news. You're gonna see like, oh, this person, this house caught on fire, and this place burned down, and this place, this argument happened, and there was a shootout over here, and there was a fight over here. You're gonna see this with Mars at 29 degrees and Mars going into Aries. Okay, it's gonna be a very aggressive energy. It's gonna be very aggressive energy. The other thing is, as Mars goes into Aries, what planet is he coming into conjunction with? Saturn. So Mars Saturn conjunctions are huge indications of moments of war or conflict or tension and moments of disagreement. And I know a few people that actually have Saturn and Mars in a conjunction, and that's a very powerful conjunction to have in a chart, but it also indicates men, specifically father figures or brothers, that are very toxic and very abusive and very angry and very mean. Okay. The Saturn Mars conjunction in a chart literally usually speaks to the karmic lineage of men, or men in our lineage, like brothers, fathers, grandfathers, whatever, that have been very powerful, very, very successful, very authoritative. They've been in the military, they've been the top of the food chain or whatever, but they tend to be very toxic or abusive in relationships. They tend to be very mean and very cold. Okay. I have a best friend who has Saturn conjunct Mars in Scorpio, and their father was in the military. And he grew up and he was like one of nine or something. So he had a really rough upbringing. And he's very stoic. I think their dad's an Aquarius. I said her dad. Oops. I try to keep my peoples anonymous. Um, but yeah, the Saturn Mars conjunction. Mars is going to be in Aries for like 2 months, a month and 3 weeks, I believe. So Mars moves very, very slowly. He takes an average of 2 months to transit a sign. So he's going to be in Aries for a while, going into Taurus season. Okay. Um, But yeah, with Mars Saturn conjunction, that conjunction is not going to happen until next week. But as Mars approaches Saturn, he builds into that conjunction. We just got to be very mindful of like arguments, fights, our temper, violence, anger, also electrical fires, things like this. You just want to be very careful of, very mindful of. Okay. Um, so then the moon goes into Aquarius, right? So Mars goes into Aries, and on Friday, Thursday, going into Friday, and then the moon goes into Aquarius on Saturday. And this is another weekend, another social justice, no kings protest type of weekend. Because the moon immediately hits Pluto in Aquarius, and the moon's going to be in Aquarius for the weekend. So this is a very social weekend. It's a very active weekend. Um, this is the this is the fifth house away from the full moon in Libra. So if you put Libra on the rising, what do you get? What sign is in the fifth house for Libra? Anybody? Any mental, cerebral, Pictionary, visual people here that can see the chart in their brain the way I can? I literally see charts in my mind. Like I literally could close my eyes and I can like put together someone's chart as they're telling me their placements and I can visually see it in my mind's eye. Like I can see it's because I look at charts all day. Aquarius. Yes, the fifth house away from Libra is Aquarius, which is where the moon's going to be at. So, what is Aquarius? The fifth house? What is the fifth house? Fun, joy, celebration, parties, romance, sex, pleasure. Also, gambling. What else is the fifth house? Gambling, entrepreneurial activity, dancing. The fifth house rules dancing. A lot of fifth house, you'll see that a lot of people that have fifth house placements, they love to dance and they're really good dancers. The fifth house is the house of performance. It's one of the art houses. The third and the fifth specifically are connected to art and performance. The fifth house, yeah, children, fertility. Yes, it's also the house of children. Yes. So, be careful with making a baby this month or this weekend. There are people that want to make a baby though. Aquarius is not a very fertile sign. It's not, but there are people that are going to be getting pregnant, um, because it's their time. It's their time to have a baby and get pregnant. It's Jupiter's in Cancer. Jupiter's got to leave. So Jupiter, the way I've been imagining Jupiter in Cancer as he wraps up in Cancer and goes into Leo by like June, July, I've been imagining Jupiter like this. I'm gonna show him. There's a card actually in there's a card in Lenormand that embodies Jupiter right now. This is him right here. He's the stork. So what Jupiter's been doing, right? He's like Oprah. He's like, you have a baby, and you have a baby, and you have a baby, and you have a baby. He's been delivering these baby baskets. He's been getting people pregnant. Jupiter is saying, it's time for you to have a baby. It's your karmic time for you to get pregnant. Jupiter is the planet that has everything to do with procreation and birth, especially the firstborn child. Jupiter rules over your firstborn child. So for those of you that are looking to become a parent for the first time, this is your first baby coming. Jupiter. You want to look to your Jupiter. You want to see what Jupiter is going on, what's happening with Jupiter in your chart. You want to take a look at how your Jupiter is activated. A lot of people will have their firstborn child on their Jupiter return or during their Jupiter return. So this is why you'll see a lot of people that have their firstborn child around the age of like 23 to 25, and they'll have their firstborn child between the ages of 35 to 37, because those are our Jupiter returns. Sometimes back in the day, back in the crazy days when teens, when kids were getting married off, when teenagers were getting married off, a lot of babies were having a lot of people would have, a lot of women would have their firstborn child around the age of 13, 12, 13. It's possible. Why is that? It's because between the ages of 12 and 13, that's our first Jupiter return. That's our first Jupiter return. Sometimes Jupiter is so strong in a woman's chart, or she has like certain things happening with Jupiter Uranus stuff. She could have Jupiter Uranus stuff or some really interesting eighth house, 12th house Jupiter stuff where she can have a hidden pregnancy or she get pregnant really, really young, you know, especially Jupiter in a fire sign. If you have if you have a daughter that has Jupiter in a fire sign, Aries, Leo, or Sag, her getting pregnant around the age of 18 or really young, you need to be careful with this. You need to be careful with this, okay? Or even if you have a child that has a mutable moon, moon in Pisces, Virgo, well, not so much Virgo, but more Pisces, Sag, Gemini. That's another one. It's another placement for early pregnancies or for very young pregnancies, early childhood pregnancies. Jupiter in a fire sign, moon in a mutable sign. If your child has that, okay? Or even if they have like Moon Jupiter in the eighth house or the 12th house, so they have the fifth house ruler in the eighth house, 12th house, that can also be a hidden or secret pregnancy that they don't tell you or they don't keep. There might actually be someone on here where I actually can look at a chart, and I've told multiple people this. I can look at a chart and be like, oh, did you miscarry or abort your first child? And also, did you have that child accidentally? And also, did you not tell anybody? And they were like, yes, yes, and yes. I got pregnant when I was 21, when I was in college. I told nobody. I didn't even tell my family. I didn't tell my boyfriend at the time because I was in my career. I went and got a miscarriage. Or I went and had an abortion. It was between me and the doctor. No one knew. I was 21. And no one to this day knows that that happened, right? I've had clients tell me that. So you can see that in the chart. It's weird. It's a really weird thing because the fifth house, sometimes when the fifth house is afflicted, the first pregnancy is going to not be kept for one reason or the other. It don't matter the reason. Sometimes it's a miscarriage, sometimes it's an abortion. But no matter what, that first child is not going to be born. Doesn't matter. The chart tells us that first child, for one reason or the other, is not going to be born. And this has been really a really healing thing when I'm able to see this for women, especially women that are trying to like get pregnant and they have like guilt associated with that first pregnancy from when they were younger, because a lot of women, right, they'll have that really traumatic pregnancy in their 20s or even when they're young, teens, where it's like they got pregnant and they aborted it, and so they carry like a lot of guilt and a lot of like emotional guilt, you know, and a lot of shame associated with that abortion. So then when they're like when it's time for them to have another baby or they want to have a baby in their 30s, they have a really hard time because they're still holding on to a lot of that grief or a lot of that shame, a lot of that guilt from that first pregnancy experience, right? So, you know, me talking about this and bringing it up is really healing for them. Because if I'm able to see this in the chart, oh yeah, like your first pregnancy was, you know, you were going to abort it, or you weren't going to have it, or it was going to be an accident, and it's written, and you weren't meant to keep it, then guess what? All of a sudden that frees, you know, them from being like, I don't have to hold on to that shame or that guilt because the chart literally says that was gonna happen, and the chart literally says that I wasn't gonna keep it. So it's a karmic thing, you know. A lot That's the way karma works, and it's so interesting because a lot of times the choices that you think you're making that are of your own free will are actually written in your chart. So do you actually have free will? Because it looked like you were fated or destined to make that choice based on the transits or based on what your chart says, right? So this is why I can go ahead and look at like a chart. I could look at like a synastry chart and be like, oh yeah, you guys are gonna get a divorce. You guys are not meant to be together. And then that gives someone permission to be like, oh, I can free myself from this unhealthy, toxic marriage because the synastry is just so fucking bad and it's like karmically, we're not meant to be together. You're not meant to be with everyone that you end up partnering with. You're not meant to stay with everyone. That's a truth that I'm going to stick by. The majority of people that you come into contact with relationship wise, you are not meant to hold on to. I would say 90% of the people that you get into a relationship with, you are not meant to hold on to. And and this is not even, I'm just talking about this, not even with love. This is with friends. This is with work, jobs, coworkers. This is with, you know, like in the ones that you are meant to hold on to, that you're forced to hold on to, It's very obvious because why? They're your family members. Right? You can't get your mom and your dad, your kids, they ain't going nowhere. Those are the ones karmically that you are attached to. You ain't get rid of them. You can't just free yourself. You can, in a way, free yourself from those, but you're gonna have to deal with a certain amount of time. You're gonna have to experience those relationships, right? That's a different thing. But the majority of relationships, we're meant they're meant to teach us something, and then we're meant to learn and move on. But we love holding on. We love attach. Human beings, we love attachment. We love it makes sense. We're magnetic. We're magnetic beings, right? We're electrical beings. We're magnetic beings. So of course we want to attach ourselves to things, right? But we can't get overly attached, and we can't confuse ourselves or confuse our being or our sense of self with the things that we attach ourselves to. This is why we can't attach ourselves to a job. We can't attach ourselves to a relationship. We can't attach ourselves to a certain role or identity, because at any moment in time, those things can be taken away from us, or the universe, God, spirit can be like, hey, guess what? This is not your role anymore. This is not your task anymore. This is not your job anymore. This relationship is not for you anymore. And now I need you over here. Now I need you to do this. Now you need to redirect and go in this direction. And we have a really hard time with the non attachment piece. We have a really hard time with unattaching, with releasing, with letting go, because human beings, we're magnetic and we love to hold, we love to cling. We're very clingy. We love to hold on to things. We like to attach ourselves to things. And then we like to believe that the things that we attach ourselves to are an element of us, or that it's like, okay, well, I'm in this relationship, so now it's a part of me. Actually, no. You're just a participant. You're just, you're along for the ride, but that's not who you are. You're not that relationship. You're not that marriage. You're not that job. You're not that title. You're not that role that you play. No, that's not who you are, you know? And the universe is going to show you this over and over again, because every time you confuse yourself or something that you're not, you're going to be put into a little bit of a moment of chaos or crisis, It's why when people like lose themselves and they lose their shit when they go through breakups or things like this, is because they've overly attached themselves to something and they thought something was permanent that was just transient, or that was not going to stay. It's not. Nothing is meant to last. I hate to say this, but this is the truth. Nothing is meant to last. If things were meant to last, they would, but they don't. We live in a world that is constantly being born and dying over and over again. Like, the earth, the nature, we just got to look to reality to see that everything is always in a constant state of transformation and change. Nothing is ever the same. Nothing is ever permanent. Nothing is ever going to stay. Nothing is ever going to last. That's just the truth. And the quicker that we accept and reason with this truth, the more free that we can be, the more space that we can create in our life, and we can allow things to flow. We're not meant to be a stagnant river or a stagnant ocean or a stagnant lake. We are meant to be in flow. We're meant to live life in flow. And part of that flow is understanding when things are flowing in our life and things are flowing out of our life. And we know when something it's time for something to flow out of our life, we're kicking and screaming, trying to cling on to it, begging, oh, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't, trying to hold on to it. And God's like, no, stop. This is not for you. Let it go. Release it. It's time to flow. It's time to get back into the flow. We stagnate ourselves. Attachment also creates stagnation. This is the thing, right? A lot of times when we are so stuck, we feel so stuck in our life, it's because we've become a prisoner of attachment. We've attached ourselves to too many things, and now all those attachments are holding us down, and they're stopping us from moving and from flowing, right? We've overly attached ourselves. We weighted ourselves down with things that we've become attached to, and now we're too heavy to float. We can't even be in flow. We're like a rock in the bottom of the river. You know what I mean? That's just accumulated too much stuff. We've accumulated too much shit. We're holding on to too much shit, We attached ourselves to too much. So we need to give ourselves permission to be in flow. We need to learn how to let things go. We need to make it an active practice of letting shit go. And the best place to start is by throwing stuff away. Let me tell you, throw shit away in your life. Throw things away. Give stuff away. Let shit go. I don't want it. Give it here. Take it. I don't want it. Please take it. I don't want this. Have it. That's how I feel. I be doing that a lot. Like, here, I don't want this. Take it. I don't want this. Free me of this, please. People are like, oh, I'll take it. Here you go. You could have it. I don't want this. You know, we gotta get in that energy. You know what I mean? Anyways, I don't know how I got there, but let's bring it back to the astrology. So the moon's going to be in Aquarius this weekend, which is a fifth house energy because the fifth house away from the full moon, and this is a good positive energy. It's a fun energy. You know, it's about celebration and joy and partying and all these things. So I think it's going to be a really good weekend. It's going to be a very social justice weekend as well. You know, people um, rioting and uh, protesting and being out in the streets and stuff like this. Um, the moon in Aquarius is ruled by Saturn in Aries, though. So, we just got to be mindful of this kind of energy of conflict and agitation. Like an angry men, that's like a big thing right now. It's like angry men. Angry men. Watch out for angry men, especially men that are temperamental or under the influence. I don't think this is a good time for excessive drinking, especially if you have like anger issues, or if there's like other people around you that have anger stuff. I don't think this is a good time to lose consciousness. I think this is a time that can create a lot of issues and a lot of problems for people, personality wise, psychologically and emotionally, by over drinking and like overdoing things. Like, we don't want to be blacking out right now. This is not a good energy to black out in. This is a very unsafe energy to black out in. It's very triggering energy. This could be this week going into next week, especially this weekend. People that get blackout drunk can get really angry, really violent, really volatile. So you just want to be mindful of that, okay? I got this beautiful little rainbow. See that little rainbow? It was like reflecting on my face. Oh, there it goes. Maybe you couldn't see it. Maybe you could. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I could see it. So yeah, so the moon in Aquarius this weekend. So the moon's transiting Sag, Capricorn, and Aquarius. This week, Mars goes into Aries on Thursday. Venus is transiting Taurus. Jupiter's going direct. We have a Venus Jupiter sextile coming up, which will be next week, which is going to be really good for abundance and luck and opportunity. We have a new moon in Aries that's going to be coming up next week as well. So the new moon in Aries is going to be on, I'll give you guys that date. It'll be good for me to know as well. Nope, I'll be blowing it down and eating food with my homegirls at a food. Yeah, Venus and Taurus. What a good time to go to a food festival. Yeah, this is a good time for eating. Venus and Taurus. Venus is in a good sign. She's in the sign that she loves to be in. Okay, so the new moon is going to be. Let me get the exact date here. Oh, I went too far, went too far, went too far, went too far. Went too far, went too far. It's gonna be me. Come on. Come on, internet. Do your thing. Go faster. My internet is like taking forever. Forever? Forever, ever? Forever, ever? Sorry guys, you guys are seeing my you guys are seeing my ADD in in full-blown action right now. All right, hold on, wait a minute. A brain that never stops, I'm telling you. Okay, here we go. Cool, 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 cool. I'm gonna give you guys the exact date. Oh, so it does look like it's gonna be on Friday, April 17th. Okay, it's like right around midnight. It's like midnight, Thursday midnight going into Friday is when the new moon's gonna be. This new moon, I mean, it's gonna be good for like starting. Ah, ah, ah. This is a spicy new moon. I don't know, my loves. We need to like be watching what happens with like international politics and war with this new moon. This new moon is kind of, I mean, it's good for individual endeavors, but when it comes to like global politics and when it comes to like just the energy of war and anger and aggression, it's going to be a tough new moon. I'm going to be honest with you. We have Mercury, Mars, and Saturn all together. We have Neptune at two, Mercury at three. So we have Neptune at two Aries, Mercury at three Aries, Mars at five Aries, and Saturn at seven Aries. So we have Neptune, Mercury, Mars, and Saturn all sandwiched together in Aries, in the early degrees of Aries. And the new moon is going to be at 27 Aries, conjoined Chiron in Aries. Lordy, give us some space, God. Let us breathe. Like, what is going on? This is a very, but this new moon is gonna initiate. It's gonna begin. It's gonna start. It's gonna address. It's gonna, it's a very aggressive, strong new moon. Yeah, Aries superstellium. Yeah, yeah. April 17th, 16th, 17th. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be very, very intense. It's a very aggressive energy. This can be a very violent or a dangerous energy as well. I'm not really excited for. I just don't like Mercury in the mix on this at all. I don't like Mercury in the mix on this at all because Mercury is schools, students, educational institutions, and right away the download I got is like violence in schools. I got violence in schools. I also got really intense moments like where people are clashing with authority figures. So I don't know what's going on this weekend of like the 18th, the 19th, because this is like Friday, April 17th, the 18th, the 19th. This is kind of giving violence at jobs, violence at schools, violence with coworkers. We don't like Mercury in on this. Mercury is a very sensitive planet. Mercury, he's a benefic unless he's soured or modified by malefic energy. And him being within, 5 degrees of Saturn and within 3 degrees of Mars is not really good for this new moon. Arguments, our nervous system could be very inflamed or very irritated. This is also the energy of heat and inflammation. So if you are someone that deals with migraines or headaches, or if you are someone that has blood issues, high blood pressure especially, you need to be very mindful of this new moon in Aries coming up on the 17th, because this new moon can trigger a stroke for some people. This new moon can also trigger health issues where there's like intense heat or inflammation that causes a moment of like chaos or something. The U.S. did a strike on a school in Iran, perhaps consequences for the strike. Yeah, it's we just don't. Mercury's been going through things. Mercury hasn't been in a good position, unfortunately. The Mercury retrograde in Pisces was not good because Mercury was sitting with Mars. So we had the Mercury retrograde, right? The Mercury retrograde was with the North Node and was with Mars and Pisces. So the Mercury retrograde was extra toxic and extra tough. But now, Mercury moves forward into Aries, but he's has to pass through Mars and Saturn. So as Mercury, like I want you guys to think of it like metaphorically like this, okay? Mercury having a transit and move through Mars and Saturn and go past Mars and Saturn is like a little school child having to walk through like an alley in the middle of the night with like gangsters. Okay, like that's how this energy is. Mercury having to go through Mars and Saturn is him walk like as a little student with his little like hat and backpack. Like in the middle of the night, he's lost and he has to go through this really dark alley and there's like gangsters there, or like scary things there or whatever. That's what this energy is like. It's very vulnerable. It's very, very vulnerable. And we need to be kind of like paying attention to what's happening with this new moon around like what the media is saying for sure, and also like what's happening locally with like our schools and stuff like this, especially if you are someone that, I don't know, if you're a parent, your intuition is just telling you like, hey, I don't know, maybe I should keep my kid home today or something. Really listen to that, okay? Because I don't know, this is very dangerous energy. I'm not really liking this at all. My intuition is like, it's like red flagging, like going off with this new moon. And especially if you have cardinal placements. So if you have Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, or Libra, um, you got to be very mindful of this new moon because this new moon can show up very prominently in your life. Well, I'll talk more about it. I'll feel more into this new moon energy and I'll talk about the new moon this weekend. I was supposed to do a full moon in Libra live this past weekend, but I don't know. I totally, not this past weekend, the weekend prior, but I totally spaced. I don't know where I was. I was very busy that weekend actually. I've been doing a lot of readings for people that are on that are like in Bali, Dubai, India, Australia. I've been doing a lot of readings for people that are on the other side of the world. And I was doing readings this weekend for those people, for a lot of people over there. So, yeah, that's how I forgot to do the live this past weekend or this past weekend. So not like yesterday, the weekend prior is what I meant to say. What day? Well, these dates around here. The 16th going, I mean, the 16th onward, honestly. I mean, it's uh, you know, I think this energy, it's like this energy starts to build up. We're gonna start to feel it the 12th, and then like it just kind of escalates and it kind of climaxes, going until like the end of Aries season, going to the end of Taurus season. I think this energy is gonna be in the air, especially the 2 weeks following the new moon. So, the first week or two of Taurus season, I think are gonna be really, really rough. Um, I mean, then we have a full moon in Scorpio that's ruled by Mars after the new moon in Aries. The next lunar event is a full moon in Scorpio, which is ruled by Mars. Yep. I'm looking at we have a Mars Jupiter square. I'm looking at Friday, May 1st. I'm looking at the moon at 6 Scorpio and the sun at 10 Taurus. But Mars is in Aries still. Yeah, I think we're not going to be out of the weeds until, Uranus go until the new moon in Taurus. I don't know, my loves. This energy this season just feels very tough. And then Uranus goes into Gemini. So that's the other really big thing that we have happening. At the end of this month, it goes into Gemini at 0 degrees. And Uranus in Gemini at 0 degrees is going to be a revolution transit. Okay, so I'm gonna tell y'all right now, like this Taurus season could be really spicy. And we may see a lot of political upheaval and just like a lot of political drama unfold because of Uranus's ingress into Taurus. Yeah, so the full moon's on Friday, May 1st. It's a full moon in Scorpio, ruled by Mars and Aries. And it does look like it's at an Aquarius degree. It's at 11 degrees, and Uranus goes into Gemini. So Uranus will be in Gemini by that full moon. You know. So the good thing is that those of you that have been dealing with Uranus, those of you that have been going through Uranus opposition, you have Uranus and Scorpio. So those of you that have Uranus and Scorpio, you are wrapping up your Uranus opposition and with Uranus going into Gemini. And I will say, for those of you that have Uranus in Scorpio and you're going through Uranus opposition, this this month and next month could be very climactic for you. It could be very kind of some kind of final releasing of energy, some kind of tower moment, some kind of a moment of liberation, a moment of emancipation, a moment of freedom. There could be something that you experience, those of you with Uranus and Scorpio. As Uranus departs Taurus and goes into Gemini, he may leave with one last Uranian moment, one last Uranian outcry, one last Uranian tower moment before he goes into Gemini. So if you are someone with Uranus in Scorpio, the Uranus Scorpio generation, even if you have Uranus, let's say you have Uranus in another fixed sign, you have Uranus in Leo or Uranus in Aquarius. This Uranus in Taurus leaving and going into Gemini, this for the next like 30 days can be this like final Uranian moment that you experience. This a moment of liberation, a moment of free, a dramatic shift, a dramatic decision that you make, a moment of chaos, something like this. Because Uranus, it's Uranus. You get hit by a bolt of lightning. Cancel clear that. I don't wish that on anybody, but you could get hit by a bolt of lightning in some type of way, metaphorically. You can have a wake up call. Uranus has a lot to do with wake up calls. So um, be mindful of that. For those of you that have Uranus in a fixed sign, specifically Uranus in Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo, or if you have Uranus in Taurus, those that have been going through Uranus return, yeah, Uranus and Taurus. Those that are in their 80s right now. So the people that are in their 80s are going through the Uranus return. My grandma has Uranus and Taurus, and she had a fall, a really bad fall last year, where she busted her head open. I don't know if I showed you guys that. I don't think I showed you. No, I showed some of you. I think I showed my chat that my subscribers, but I don't think I showed everyone. But yeah, my grandma busted her head open last year, like, and she didn't even know, dude. She was like, my neighbor was like, "You need to go to the hospital and get stitches," and she's like, "Oh, I feel fine." And he's like, "No, like your head is busted open." So a lot of people fall around their Uranus return around 84 because Uranus is the planet of accidents and falling, right? Uranus, it he brings trips and falls. That's literally what he does, right? So a lot of people have a big fall around the age of 84 because that's part of their Uranus return, and a lot of people that fall around that age, that fall typically will trigger a downward spiral when it comes to their health, especially if they break a hip or if they break a femur or something. If they break their femur, if they break their hip, it's like a downward spiral from there. Not always, but yeah, it tends to be. You know, so that's one of the things you want to be very mindful of. If you have anybody that's around the age of like 83 to 85, they have Uranus and Taurus. They're wrapping up their Uranus and Taurus transit. This next month, especially Taurus season, as we go into Taurus season. Um, this next 30 days, mindful of tripping and falling and stuff, things falling on us. Uranus is a really weird planet. When like pianos fall out of the sky and they hit somebody, or when like a random object falls out of the sky and like it hits somebody, that's a Uranus transit. That's a Uranus transit. That's a Uranus experience. Like Uranus is just like the strangest, weirdest thing. Uranus transits can be really, really weird, and we can have some really strange things. Uranus has been transiting your eighth house. I have a question for you, Linda. Over the last 7 years with Uranus transiting your eighth, did you have to get any kind of surgery, or did you do anything like with your thyroid, or did you have to do any kind of like hormonal modification, or did you stop taking like birth control, or did you change your birth control, or did you have like any stuff with like IUD stuff, like an IUD or anything like that? Did any of that stuff like happen, or did you experience any of that stuff, or even like weird financial stuff? Like, did you have like a weird situation with like your taxes, or we had to bring someone to court because they owed you money, anything like that? You had well, I had my kids by CS. What's CS? Is that what's CS mean? Oh yeah, it's a Syrian section. That's what that means. A C-section. Why do they call it a Caesarean section? Where's that word Caesar? It's literally Caesar. Caesarian. Where does that term come from? Caesarean. Oh, okay, okay. So the popular idea is that the Roman statesman Julius Caesar was born via cesarean section. C-section seems to have been invariably fatal to the mother. Oh, that's where it comes from. Also have transiting eighth. Hormone therapy and investment property financially strained us. Now it's selling. Okay, good. Yeah, Uranus leaving the eighth. Yep. Uranus leaving your eighth house. Yeah, if we were gonna look to kids like in you having a C-section with kids and stuff, that would actually be that would be we would look to your fifth house and we look to what's going on with your fifth house and we look to with Mars. Mars causes a lot of issues with pregnancy and Mars brings like C-sections and stuff. And I want you to think about this also. Like, think about how Mars is fallen in Cancer, right? Mars, the planet of cutting and blood, is fallen, extra weak and extra destructive in Cancer, which is the sign of mother and babies and procreation and also the birth experience. And how dangerous the birth experience can be because Mars, right, is weak in the sign of Cancer, is fallen, is more dangerous. It's interesting because we would think I want you guys to think about this, like, because this is also an interesting way to think about planets in fall or detriment, or planets that are in exaltation, or planets that are in rulership and domicile. Sometimes a planet, when it's fallen or in detriment, its more destructive or negative qualities are amplified. So it's more dangerous, especially for Mars. So Mars in Cancer is not necessarily weak. That's not a weak Mars. It's actually a very powerful Mars. I know a lot of people that have Mars in Cancer who are very angry and very powerful, and when they get angry, when they get mad, and their emotions come out, it's just like it's power, right? There's a lot of power there. But I also want you to think about how dangerous it is for women giving birth to have a C-section, because a C-section is literally Mars and Cancer. And what I'm reading here is that prior to modern, like, modern health and discoveries of modern health, the majority of women who would give birth and have a C-section would die. Actually, they would actually lose their life. You know, and this makes sense because if you put Cancer, which is a sign of the mother and procreation and babies on the rising, in the fifth house of children, from the sign of Cancer in the fifth house of children, what sign do you get? Scorpio, which is the planet of death and transformation, which is ruled by Mars, right? So it's really interesting to think about how the pregnancy experience is a very dangerous one. It's a very violent one. And this has a lot to do with Mars's energy being fallen in Cancer. So, because when you get a C section, the womb, which is the moon, Cancer, is getting cut into Mars, which can lead to blood loss. Mars rules blood. So, Mars's fallen status in Cancer also has a lot to do with just how dangerous C-sections are when it comes to pregnancy and procreation. You see what I'm saying? So that's another way to think about planets in fall or in detriment, or planets that are in rulership or in exaltation, is to kind of tie certain things that don't blend together, right? Like blood and knives and cutting should not be involved in the process of pregnancy, birth, and procreation. But what happens when we have to marry these two things? What happens when we have to marry Mars in Cancer? We get a very destructive experience. We get a very dangerous experience, right? Someone said, I have Mars in the eighth house in Cancer and I had a blood clot after my C-section. Yep. See, that's a signature right there. And I would have told you with eighth house Mars, your blood health and what's going on with your blood, you got to be very important. You got to like pay attention and be very like, on top of it. Yeah, eighth house is near death experience. The US has the highest mortality rate of C-sections. US cancer in eighth house. Ugh, well, that's not surprising. You know, we were living in a third world country, I swear. But yeah, the United States is a Sag stellium, is a Sag rising with Cancer stellium in the eighth, so they really aren't prioritizing the. It's so interesting how the politics around procreation and birth in the United States, like the politics of like controlling women's bodies and like the pregnancy experience or whatever, how that's like such a thing here in the States, and it makes sense because the United States is a Cancer stellium, right? So it's like the energy of the United States, because there's so much in Cancer, Jupiter, Sun, it can't help but focus politically on like women and on like the and like babies and like pregnancy and like that's why like abortion is like been such like a thing, like such a political battleground here in the United States. It's because of the eighth house counterstellium that the United States has. You know, it's like their belief. It's like this political. It's we can't help but fight that battle, that political battle around women's procreative rights because of the way the United States birth chart is. It's a cancer stellium, you know, in the eighth house. So it's like it's overly concerned and overly occupied with women's reproductive rights. It's weird. Someone said it also does something to your nervous system because of the injection. Near death experience. Yeah, eighth house transits, eighth house, 12th house can be near death experience. Yeah, certain people should stay away from surgeries, you know, if you have certain planets in the eighth house. You have Venus and Cancer in the eighth house, hoping for a baby. Oh, that means you're an Aquarius rising? Wait, no, 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 no. You're a Sag rising. You're a Sag rising, right? Rachel? You have Venus and Cancer in the eighth house. You're a Sag rising, hoping for a baby. And not anytime soon, my love. You gotta wait. Jupiter and Leo is going to be your baby. Your baby's coming with Jupiter and Leo. So you can get pregnant though in the next couple months. You know, you could get pregnant. So you might get pregnant in the next couple months, and then the baby will come when Jupiter. They will actually be born with Jupiter and Leo. But more than likely, you're gonna have your baby when Jupiter's in Leo. More than likely, either the baby will be born with Jupiter and Leo, or you get pregnant while Jupiter's in Leo because you're a fire sign. You know, you got to wait. It's all about timing, you know. Pregnancy and procreation is all about timing, and this is one of the things I wish modern medicine understood. Like if we were using astrology in modern medicine, especially with procreation and with pregnancy with women, women would be having a much easier and a much better time at becoming moms, and they wouldn't be stressing out and trying so hard for X amount of years when their window of time to have the baby is this time. If, right? I just did a reading for a client on Saturday. I told her back in 2023, your baby's not coming for another 2 years, not until 2025, 2026. I told her this, but I also told her, you can try. Go ahead and try. I'm not going to tell you to not. Obviously, go ahead and try. Do your thing. Baby didn't come. 1 year passes. Baby didn't come. Second year passes. Baby didn't come. Right? I get a message from her end of January 2026. Louis, guess what? Baby, I told you already. You're pregnant. I told you this was going to be the window of time that you're going to get pregnant based on your chart. And I told you that it wasn't going to happen those 2 years prior because you're just not having the transits for it. The astrology isn't supporting it. I don't see it in your chart. If I don't see it for you in that particular time, I'm going to tell you, I don't see this for you right now. You're going to have to wait. And then it ended up happening, right? So I actually did a reading for her about her birth date, about the pregnancy date or the birth date of the baby. And we did some guesstimation. You know, I kind of showed her, well, this is around the time that I think the baby's going to be born based on the planets and based on your chart and dad's chart, you know. So that's the thing. It's like, if modern medicine, if we were incorporating astrology, especially into the aspect of procreation and birth and pregnancy, not only would women have a much better time and experience of becoming a mother and kind of understanding when their window of pregnancy is or when the baby's going to come. Because your baby has to have a certain chart. I'm going to tell you this right now. Your baby, your children, they have to have certain aspects and certain planets. The planets have to be configured in a certain way for them to come. Nothing is random. Okay? The reason why the planets have to be in certain positions when your babies come is because they have to have whatever they inherited from you energetically. It's like genetics, it's DNA, you know? So, what I showed my client on, was that yesterday? Sunday? Yeah, we did a reading yesterday morning. I was like, look, your baby's gonna have the same exact Mars as you. We looked around this 1 month window. We looked around this 1 month window of when the baby's going to come. And at that time, the child is going to have the same moon, the same Mars, the same Venus, the same sun as mom and dad. Different ones, right? Mom's Mars and moon, dad's sun, Venus. Because we inherit these things, right? Someone said, "How do I feel about IVF? Still random or divine?" Just the thought that popped up. Oh, you could see when someone's chart when they're gonna need IVF. That's the other thing. Astrology tells us, oh, this pregnancy is gonna be tough. Oh, this child could come early. Oh, this pregnancy you could have a crisis, a health crisis. Oh, this pregnancy you're probably gonna need IVF. You're gonna need supportive technology. You can see that in a chart. All these things are available in a chart. If I see that someone has a very afflicted moon to where they can't have a natural birth, or that they have to adopt or they have to do IVF, I will tell them that. That's going to be in the chart too. You know what I mean? I mean, the chart's going to tell us, can you have a birth naturally, right? Oh, my ear is ringing right now. Ooh. Or are you going to need technological support? You know, some women have a very afflicted chart, and like having a baby is going to be really rough. They're going to have to do a lot of work, and sometimes the child comes in a way where it's not even your child. Sometimes the chart says you're going to partner with someone who's already going to have a child. You're going to be a step parent. You're going to be stepmother or stepfather. Or sometimes the chart says you're going to be adopting. I literally did a reading for LGBT couple where I literally showed them in their chart, oh yeah, this is either going to be an adopted child, or this is going to be like, you're helping raise, and you're a sister or a brother's child or something like this. And sure enough, that's actually what we ended up discussing and what came out. That was their plan. They were like, oh yeah, we're thinking about adopting. We were thinking about adopting. I'm like, oh, well, it shows up in both your charts, so it makes sense. So sometimes it's not like just biological children. Sometimes our karma is like to be raising someone else. Sometimes it's our karmic duty to raise someone else's child, or to like have a child that's not blood related but still karmically ours, right? Because I could see it in the chart. I've done this a lot with parents that are like step parents that have a stepchild. I'll go ahead and show them the astrology of that child in their chart, and it's like, wait a minute, no, you're this is your child. Like, look at the karmic connection. Like, look at the synastry that you guys have. It's very obvious. We're never put in connection with people randomly. Like, everything has purpose and everything has intention. And the more awake that we are, the more obvious this becomes. You have a 9-0 connection with your stepkid. It's really beautiful. Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, in human design. Oh, I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming that's like a really good or positive connection. Um, but yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting to see the connections that we have with people that are not even by blood, but they're still our child. It's still your baby. That's still your baby. So Yeah, so why would we oh, I was talking about this because the new moon in Aries. Yeah, the new moon in Aries, you know. So with my client that I did a reading for yesterday, there is a transit where the moon and Mars are going to be together before, like a few weeks before the actual due date. And so right away when I saw that, I was like, the baby's coming early. And then my client ended up telling me, "Oh, I had a dream that my baby was coming early, like around the 4th or the 5th." And we looked at those dates, and those are exactly the dates that the moon's going to be in Cancer, right with Mars, you know? So it all just kind of like aligned. It's just so beautiful. Like, you know, everything is like divinely connected. Everything is divinely ordained. Like there's no accidents. And the more that you start to wake up to this truth, the more that you start to expand your vision and your awareness, the more you'll be able to put things together and see things in a bigger perspective, and the more that you'll be able to just know things and predict things the way I do, you know? So sometimes I just be knowing. Sometimes it's not even a chart or a card that's telling me something. I just get a download. I get information. I'm like, oh, I just got this like vision, or I just saw this thing, or I just this idea popped in my head, or this download came into my head, and I just share it. You know, sometimes that's the way intuition works. It doesn't need a reason. It doesn't need a trigger. It doesn't need an activation. Sometimes, you know. So yeah. All right, my loves. Well, we're at 2 hours. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. Nice spending time with you guys today. Um, be mindful of your anger and your rage. Put your passionate energy towards good, positive things. What is this? Put your passionate, aggressive energy towards good, positive things. Don't project it onto people. Be mindful that people are easily triggered right now. Be mindful that people are feeling a little bit more aggressive than usual right now. Be mindful that people are also kind of um they want independence right now. You know, then this could be a tough time for relationships because we can feel this energy of like drifting apart, like people drifting apart. But it's actually it may be a little bit of that, but it's actually people stepping into themselves. People stepping into their individuality, stepping into their power, stepping into their passion, stepping into what they want, right? It's natural that as people individuate and they kind of focus on self, that kind of brings some damage or some woundedness to relationships, or that creates some kind of shift or change in the way relationships function, right? So just understand that. Full moon in Libra, we're in that full moon in Libra cycle. We have a new moon in Aries coming up, right, in a week. So this tension between Libra and Aries, between the self and the individual and like the other and like connection and partnership. This tension, we just got to be very aware of this tension right now because it's showing up very prominently, you know. And also, you know, this is a time to build community, my loves. I just gotta say this, like, you know, full moon in Libra, we're gonna have the moon in Aquarius this weekend. Like, this is a time for community building. This is a time for outreaching. This is a time for new friendships. This is a time for new connections. Like, stop going back to the old connections, you know, stop looking for new shit and old things. Like, put yourself out in the world, you know, go to that event, go to that concert, go to that hangout, just hang out in the coffee shop. Take out your book, read your computer, go in the coffee shop, just read. You never know who you can meet. You know, I feel like we need to open up more as people. We need to be more open. We need to share ourselves more. We need to be more social. We need to be more available to people. We need to connect more. We need more connection right now. I think connection is going to get us through this season, or get us through this period, this like very trying time, right? I think connection and community is what's going to get us through this. Okay, and we need to be reaching out and building those bridges with others. You know what I mean? Don't be selfish with yourself. Share yourself with the world. People want to see you. People want to hear you. People want to love you. People want to celebrate you. There's people that just can't, they are looking forward to meeting you. They cannot wait to meet you. And there's other people that cannot wait to get a taste. They cannot wait to get a taste. They're like, ooh, look at that. You are looking mighty scrumptious. You look delicious. You're giving three-course meal. You're giving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You're giving dessert. You're giving you know, In and Out. Some of y'all are giving In and Out. Some of y'all need to clean it up because you're giving Jack in the Box. Okay, you're giving Taco Bell. And you need to clean it up. You need to get it together. Okay? Some of y'all are giving Arby's. It ain't looking cute. It ain't looking nice. We need to clean it up. We need to get it together. Okay? You're more than just a drive-through. Can we get that on a shirt? Somebody quote that for me, please. That's gonna be on a shirt. You are more than just a drive-through. Okay? You are a five-star restaurant, baby. Okay? You are Lori's. You are give me the name of a five-star restaurant. Um I don't know any because I don't go to any. What is it? What's that one? That big one starts with the starts with a T, I think. No, I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about, baby. But you are more than just a drive-through. Yeah, you're Nobu. That's what I was thinking of. Nobu. Yes, you are Nobu, my love. Okay, you're not. Don't settle for less. Look at, dude. My hair is waving today. Look at the hair. The hair is herring today. Look at this. I need to go out and get some sun. A little bit of product. Look at this. Look at these waves, baby. Come on. This is Michelin five-star hair right here. Okay. Don't take me to the drive-through unless it's Chick-fil-A because I love Chick-fil-A. I don't ask for much. Okay. But you don't take me. I'll take In-N-Out too because I love In-N-Out. In-N-Out is cheap, but I love In-N-Out. In-N-Out's good. In-N-Out is acceptable. Chick-fil-A is acceptable. Taco Bell, McDonald's, Jack in the Box, Burger King, not acceptable. Absolutely not acceptable. Have you noticed your grades coming in more? Oh yeah, baby. My grades have been coming in since I was in my 20s. Okay. My first grades started showing up in my late 20s, I think. My grandfather on my dad's side, he had a full head of gray hair. My grandmother had a full head of gray hair. My dad, if he had hair, I'm pretty sure it'd be gray. So it does look like my mom's got some pretty thick grays as well. She dyes her hair, but she's got some thick grays. It runs in the family, the gray hairs for sure. The wisdom. This is actually, if you guys want to know how blessed I am and how divinely connected I am, look at this. You guys see this? For those, oh, let me show the people on. Let me show the people. I have I have a mole. Well, I have this mole too, but I have a mole right in the middle of my forehead, right where my third eye is at. And you know who else had this mole? The same exact mole? My grandmother on my dad's side. She had this. The same exact mole right in the middle. And baby, this is real. Like, look at this. This is a real mole. This is not drawn on, painted on, nothing. This is a real mole. This ain't going nowhere. Isn't that crazy? I remember one day I was looking in the mirror. I was like, "Is that a mole in the middle of my forehead?" I don't think I've always had it though. I think it grew. I think it like it must have just like showed up in the last like 6 or 7 years or something. Because I don't remember having this mole when I was younger. It's my third eye mole. It's my Hindu mole. It is how I know I've been Indian in a past life, and I've had many lives in India. I'm very connected to India. I'm very connected to like that's why I love Vedic astrology. I love Eastern astrology so much. But this is it. This is the remnants of my time in India. She said, "Yes, let's talk moles." I got some very interesting moles actually. Look at this is another one. This is why I think I'm like I've been stamped by aliens or I think I'm like from the Pleiades or something. Does anybody have these moles? Let me show you guys. Right here, look at this. This. So I got these two dots on my arm and there's something about these moles right here on my arm. Let me show people here for those of you so you guys can see it on. Oh, so you guys can see it on here. Hold on. You guys see? Oh yeah, here you go. Just so people on YouTube could see. I got these two moles on my arm, and I don't know what it means, but I feel like this is like a marking. I feel like this is like a branding. My intuition told me, yeah, they're symmetrical. My intuition told me that I've been marked by like this is like a tattoo or a marking from like a certain alien tribe of people or something. So this is like in either this is like a Pallades marking or something. Like I'm a Palladian or something because of this marking. That's what this told me, you know? This is like a tattoo. And it's connected to a soul, it's connected to a star system that my soul is from. Or like another planet or planets that I've been on or something. That's what my intuition told me. Past life experiences. They're so proportionally aligned. You have those in your right arm too? I know. I did like a thing I think a few years ago with this with the I was like, does anybody else have this like these like moles? Because these moles are like, I don't know. It just says something. I don't know. This means something. Well, there's a whole cosmology, there's a whole mole cosmology where I think it's like maybe it's like a in China, I think they read your moles or in India. They read your moles, especially the ones on your face and on your hands. Oh, Chinese, yeah. Facial mole reading. It's like a Chinese thing. Yeah. Hidden meaning of body moles. Yeah, the Chinese believe moles can be lucky or unlucky depending on where they're located and what color they are. They tend to believe that red moles are really lucky. Yeah, dark red moles are said to be lucky. That's fascinating. Damn, they got the whole body mapped out. They got moles on the whole body mapped out. There's like a body map of moles. I have two on my right arm, but mine's or they're closer together. Oh, that's interesting. You have it on your left arm vertically. If you have any on your lip, you speak things in existence. Yeah, also a lot of Venus people that have like a beauty mole. They'll have like a mole around here. I think I have one actually. It's underneath my mustache, but I think I have a beauty mole somewhere around here. Not this one. It's like if you have a mole above your lip, like I think it's on like the left side, that indicates like beauty, luck, good fortune, good partner, stuff like this. I'm on a random site. I just typed in like Chinese mole reading and this random site came up that was talking about like body mapping. It's so interesting. Where do you get a mole reading at? Huh? Go to China and have them, and then they take a picture of your whole body, and then they read your moles. I guess I don't know. That'd be really fun. I want to do that. I want to go on like an international tour, and what all I do is I go and I get like readings done. Like, but I do whatever that culture's spiritual divination science is. So it's like, I'm gonna go to China. I'm gonna go ahead and get like my a Chinese mole reading, and I'm gonna get my chart read in Chinese astrology, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get like an aura reading and all that. That'd be a really fun thing to do. And see if they all tell you the same thing. Because they do mostly they all tell you the same thing. Your astrology, your numerology, your human design, it's all gonna tell you the same thing about yourself. Someone said ninth house things. Yeah. All right, my loves. I'm hungry. Yeah, I do have Saturn and Sagittarius, and I am a ninth house stellium. So that's definitely Saturn and Sag coded and ninth house stellium coded because that's what I have in my chart. But I love you all so much. I'm gonna go outside because it's beautiful out there, and I'm gonna go ahead and practice what I preach. I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna take that little booger over there on a walk. Look at him over there. I'm gonna take him on a walk. We're gonna enjoy the sun. We're gonna get some sun. Maybe I'll go by the river. Go by the river. Have a little moment. It's beautiful out there. And yeah, you guys have a beautiful, blessed day. I'm gonna go ahead and post this. Um, I looked at my calendar for the month, and guess what? I have availability next week. So I'm not like booked out like 2 or 3 weeks right now. So if you have been thinking about booking a reading with me, definitely this is the time to get in. Um, should I say this? I have an announcement to make about readings. I'm going to be running a special on readings. I'm going to announce that in my stories though, so take a look out for that. I'm going to be doing some discounted readings this month for people. I know that times are tough, and I know that a lot of people are in a moment of transition and change when it comes to work and career. So I'm going to be I don't know why I clapped, but I'm going to be knocking down my prices and making readings a little bit more accessible for people this month. Yeah, it'll be for first time for people that are first time reading, but also for return clients. So I don't know, I'll figure it out. Just gotta get the logistics around it behind. The whole thing is like whenever okay, so this is the issue, right? Whenever I do a sale or whenever I like discount my prices, let me tell you what happens. So I end up getting booked out like a month, and I have like too many people that ask for like try to book. So what happens is like I discount my readings, and then all of a sudden, like bam, I just get like flooded, and it's a beautiful issue. It's a beautiful problem to have. It's a wonderful problem to have. But it just kind of like I don't know. It stresses me out. It gets a little overwhelming, and I get very stressed out. And then I'm like trying to fit people into my schedule, and it just gets it gets a little chaotic. So I'm gonna try to be more strategic this time with the way that I do that, with the way that I do like the sale and stuff like that. I'm gonna try to be a little bit more strategic so that I don't end up shooting myself in the foot or making my life harder. Because that's the last thing I want to do, you know? I want my life to be easy, my loves. I want an easy life. I don't want my life to be hard. I know Saturn is like, Louis, your life has to be, you got to work hard. I'm like, I know, but I don't want to. I want to just like, can I just enjoy like a simple life? Like, Saturn, leave me alone. Stop. Oh my goodness. Ah, the work that I've come here to do, you know? I sometimes, we are sometimes we wrestle with our own like goals, you know? Sometimes our own goals and our own dreams are like, oh, gosh, really? That is that. The capacity is there, but you got to do the work. You got to do the work. And that's what Saturn's telling me. He's like, well, if you want it, it's there for you, but you got to work. You got to work. You got to exert a little bit more effort, buddy. You got to be a little bit more consistent with the way that you're exerting the effort, okay? You got to try a little bit harder. Oh my goodness gracious. All right, my loves. I'll see you guys. Have a beautiful one. Thank you for listening to me moan and groan there for the last couple of minutes. Sometimes we refuse the assignment when it would be easier to just get it done. I know, right? I know, I know. You're preaching to the choir, my love. Well, the funny thing the funny thing about my guides, like the way my guides talk to me is like, Louis, you know better. They're very firm with me because they know that I'm like a little bit more, I'm a soul that's kind of like a little bit older, and I'm a little bit more wise, and I'm more keen to things, and you know I've unlocked certain things. So they're like, you know better, you're just not doing better, and that's the issue. And we have a problem with that. My spirit team is always reminding me, Louis, it's not enough to know. You must also do. Knowing better is not enough. You got to be doing better. You got to do it. You got to put it into practice. You got to put it into action. You got to practice what you preach, Louis. It's not enough just to talk about it. You got to be about it. You got to live it. And I think that's also why I was brought to that scripture, which came up for me. It's funny because, and then I'm gonna go, I promise. It's funny because the way spirit be like, the way the universe be like sending me messages and stuff, it's just so funny. Because they're like, bro. You need to practice what you preach. And it's not enough to talk about it and to think about it. You got to live it and you got to be it. And that's what Jesus was saying, when it came to faith. He's like, dude, it's not enough to just go to church and do the motions. Like, you got to live out scripture. You got to live out the word of the Lord every day. You got to put it into action. You got to put it into practice. All right, my loves. Mwah. I'll see you guys around. Have a good day. Be blessed. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy your week. Bye. See ya.